Chapter 2877. The sky was completely dark. Oro was no longer as relaxed as when he'd been chatting with Chun Zhao. Perhaps because of fatigue, his footsteps were even heavier. "Do you need a rest?" Chun Zhao asked. "Can I refuse to continue? I want to tell you that it's more dangerous for you to leave alone than with me. Something can tear you apart in the darkness at any time." In the end, Oro gave up on the idea of escaping alone. He wasn't the best mercenary, but he could always make the right choice. "I hope I made the right choice this time," Oro muttered. "This is too dangerous. When I go back, I won't do it again." Oro muttered to himself. "This job is too dangerous. When I get back, I won't do it again. Don't say the death flag. Don't say the death flag. Johnson, look over there." Ningtai Johnson looked at the surveillance camera. Two figures appeared on the screen. "It should be the mercenary who escaped earlier," Ningtai Johnson said. The image wasn't very clear. After all, it was nighttime, but Ningtai Johnson still recognized one of them. It was the one who'd escaped yesterday, but he remembered that he'd already released some unclean creatures to chase after him. He didn't expect that the guy hadn't died. Instead, he brought more people. "I didn't think that he'd dare to come again. I won't let him escape this time." Ningtai Johnson looked at the screen coldly. "Don't chase after them this time," Herm said. "They're still on the outskirts. If you scare them now, they might turn and run. Let them enter the entrance." "It's around here," Oro said. "I'm not sure of the exact location. There should be a hidden cave nearby." "Found it," Chun Zhao said. "Over there." Oro looked at Chun Zhao in shock. "Are you sure?" This was a deep mountain forest, and it was in such a dark situation. Could Chun Zhao find the location? "Don't ask. It's magic if you ask." Chun Zhao had already found the entrance. The enemy wasn't hidden well. This concealment spell was only an ordinary one. It basically couldn't hide from Chun Zhao's senses. Plus, there was a thick smell of blood in the cave. If it wasn't a slaughterhouse, then someone had definitely died. Chun Zhao walked to the cave. Oro looked at the deep cave in fear. "We're going inside." Oro felt like his head was about to explode. Standing at the entrance of the cave, Oro could already smell a nauseating stench. Chun Zhao also frowned, but not because of the smell, although the smell was unbearable. But what really surprised Chun Zhao was that Chun Zhao didn't sense anyone in the cave. There were many auras, but all of them were inhuman. There were even a few undead creatures among them. Chun Zhao was a bit confused, but he still led the way. Halfway there, Chun Zhao and Oro saw wreckage all over the ground. Oro suppressed his grief, or perhaps it could be said that his fear far surpassed his grief. Obviously, the corpses on the ground were his former comrades. However, Oro was in no mood to mourn for them, because he felt that he might follow in their footsteps. He felt that his body was completely stiff and his limbs were not listening to him. The deeper they went, the more tragic the scene became. "Mr. Chun, don't you think this doesn't look like an entrance, more like..." Oro's voice was trembling. "You want to say that this is more like a place to raise pets, right?" Oro's expression became even more stiff. He wanted to say that this looked like a ranch. Of course, it definitely wouldn't be cattle or sheep. "We still have to go in?" "Of course, we're already here," Chun Zhao said matter-of-factly. "But didn't you see the things along the way?" "I said I'm a professional." "No, you said you're an amateur." Chun Zhao suddenly stopped. Oro looked at Chun Zhao and suddenly had a bad feeling. "What's wrong? Shine the light on the wall in front of us." Oro knew that Chun Zhao must have found something bad. He didn't want to, but his body was honest. The moment the light swept across the cave wall, the light disappeared. He saw pieces of flower petals. More accurately, petals' mouths. There were many unknown creatures on the wall. They were grayish-white and slightly smaller than adults, but their mouths were wide open like petals. It felt like their chrysanthemums were in the wrong place. "What were those?" Oro's teeth were chattering. "I don't know. They don't look like normal creatures." "Look." Oro felt that Chun Zhao's choice of words was rather careless. Was there a need to look? They weren't normal creatures at all. "Okay." They seem. Oro gulped. "They don't seem to have noticed us." "Yes," Chun Zhao said. "They probably rely on their hearing, so we better be quiet." Chun Zhao had never seen these things before. He didn't know how they sensed enemies and prey. Oro immediately covered his mouth and didn't dare to make sound. Of course, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're light-sensitive creatures, Chun Zhao said nonchalantly. At the same time, he walked deeper into the forest. As for the things above him, as long as they didn't wake up, Chun Zhao couldn't be bothered to touch them. But Oro really couldn't be unmoved. The things above their heads were simply too terrifying. But when Chun Zhao walked past the chrysanthemum beast, they didn't move at all. Chun Zhao was a bit curious. If they were light-sensitive creatures, the light just now should have woken them up. If they relied on their hearing, his and Oro's conversation should have been enough to wake them up. Normally, if they didn't have vision and relied on other senses, they would stand out in certain aspects. But these chrysanthemum beasts didn't seem to rely on light or hearing. That was what surprised Chun Zhao. Suddenly, Oro fired a shot into the darkness. Chun Zhao looked at Oro in surprise. The moment the shot rang out, Chun Zhao saw that something had been hid in the darkness. Chun Zhao actually hadn't noticed it himself. Chun Zhao relied too much on his senses. This was his advantage. But in this place where the auras were mixed up, Chun Zhao's senses actually couldn't detect anything nearby. That thing wasn't very strong. Oro shot it twice in the head. "You should thank me," Oro said. "Otherwise, you'd be disemboweled already." But just then, the chrysanthemum beasts above them seemed to show signs of waking up. I know how these things wake up." "What?" Oro asked in surprise. "The smell of blood." Chapter 2878. The chrysanthemum beasts started falling from the walls and ceiling. But they weren't attacking Chun Zhao and Oro. Instead, they pounced at the thing Oro had shot. Oro kept his gun raised. He was extremely nervous. The thing Oro had shot was quickly cleaned up by the chrysanthemum beasts. But they clearly weren't satisfied with so many chrysanthemum beasts. Their way of biting their prey was rather unique. They would stick their chrysanthemums on the prey, and the muscles on the petals would move, driving their teeth to tear the prey apart. This eating method was clearly different from that of regular beasts. Chun Zhao looked at the chrysanthemum beasts with interest. The chrysanthemum beasts started searching for scents in the air. Then they all turned toward Chun Zhao and Oro. They woke up because of the smell of blood, but that didn't mean they weren't sensitive to other scents, especially since they hadn't been satisfied yet. Oro couldn't hold it in and shot a chrysanthemum beast. The beast's mouth was hit, but it didn't fall. Clearly, guns weren't a threat to it. The muscle density is very high and the skin is very tough, Chun Zhao analyzed. Even the muscle tissue in its mouth can't threaten it with bullets. Now isn't the time to analyze this. What should we do? The chrysanthemum beasts had blocked their path of retreat. Oro had a feeling that it wouldn't be long before he would meet his comrades. Crack! Suddenly, Oro heard a strange sound. It sounded like bones breaking, but it was even louder than what he remembered. He looked up and saw that Chun Zhao had grabbed a chrysanthemum beast without him knowing. The beast's neck was hanging askew as if it had no bones. Oro widened his eyes and stared at Chun Zhao in shock. The chrysanthemum beast was even bigger than an adult. Chun Zhao could grab it with one hand. Chun Zhao casually tossed the beast with the broken neck aside. The force on the tibia is at least 300 kilograms. Normal people really can't deal with this thing. The other chrysanthemum beasts were immediately attracted by the corpse and swarmed over. Oro was a little dumbfounded at the sight. "How did you kill it?" "I broke its neck." "But how did you do it?" "That thing is at least 100 kilograms. And look at its limbs. They're ridiculously thick. I told you, I'm a professional." Chun Zhao clapped his hands and continued walking. The chrysanthemum beasts didn't continue to attack them. They were more concerned about the food in front of them, even if it was their own kind. However, he stopped after a few steps. Oro caught up. "Why aren't you moving?" Chun Zhao pointed at the huge pit before them. This deep pit was a sea of bright red, and there were also a large number of skeletons and remains. This was really a farm. In this deep pit, there were dozens of monsters of different shapes and sizes. "Looks like we found the wrong place. This is just a farm, not a place where those people are hiding." At this moment, A giant, multicolored beast about 4 meters long stared at the two people at the entrance. The multicolored beast moved and jumped out of the pit that was more than 20 meters deep. This astonishing jumping ability gave Oro quite a fright. And from the looks of it, it seemed like they were planning on taking Chan Zhao and Oro away in one go. The huge claws and teeth were about to fall on his body. Oro was so frightened that he hugged his head and squatted down. But in the next instant, he heard a howl. He looked up and saw that the multicolored beast had been kicked over and had fallen back into the deep pit. The other monsters in the deep pit also noticed the two. They were different from a chrysanthemum beast before. Chrysanthemum beasts weren't very intelligent. They were wild beasts driven by hunger. The monsters in this deep pit all had extremely strong combat power, and all of them were intelligent. They weren't in a hurry to deal with the corpse of their comrade that Chun Zhao had kicked back. Instead, they kept staring at Chun Zhao. But Chun Zhao really wasn't interested in them. Just as they were itching to attack Chun Zhao and Oro, Chun Zhao's eyes hardened. Chun Zhao's eyes hardened. Instantly, all the monsters froze. In the past, Chun Zhao didn't believe that he could scare enemies with his aura. Aura was too blurry. At most, he could only use a strong aura to shock the opponent. But recently, Chun Zhao felt that he'd grasped a trick. It was possible to use aura to shock the opponent, as long as his aura was strong enough. Of course, aura didn't have much meaning in actual combat. Opponents of the same level wouldn't be shocked by Chun Zhao's aura. Chun Zhao could only use his aura to scare these little kids before him. Let's go. Chun Zhao patted Oro's shoulder. Oro glanced at the huge monsters in the deep pit. Are you sure it's okay for us to turn around and leave like this? They might think that we're too small. Oro was still a bit hesitant. It wasn't a wise choice to turn his back on these ferocious-looking monsters. But when he saw Chun Zhao turn around and leave, he still followed carefully. But when he left, he still looked back every 3 steps. If you can't bear to leave, you can choose to stay. They'll probably treat you very warmly. What's with those things? Why aren't they attacking us? I mean, other than the first one. Oro's mind was filled with questions. And what's with the first monster? Why did it suddenly fall down? Don't ask. It's magic if you ask. Since this isn't where the bandits are hiding, where are they? Have we been in the wrong place all along? No, we're not. This place isn't formed naturally. All the monsters here are domesticated. They're not wild animals, so the bandits must be hiding nearby. How do we find them? Apart from this cave, I don't know any other hiding places. Chun Zhao rubbed his forehead. It was indeed a bit troublesome for the bandits to hide in the belly of the mountain. Although the perception of his pocket world could seep into physical objects, it would take some time. It's a bit troublesome, but it's okay. Since I'm here, I don't plan on going back empty-handed, Chun Zhao said. Oro followed behind Chun Zhao, trembling. When he reached where the chrysanthemum beasts were, they had already gone back to sleep. They didn't care about their 2 food passing by. When they walked out of the cave, Chun Zhao's pocket world started seeping in. But to Chun Zhao's surprise, he didn't use too much strength and he found it. More accurately, he found the entrance and used a physical object to block it, but it wasn't very thick. Because Chun Zhao had found this cave before, he thought it was the entrance, so he didn't investigate further. The second time, he found it much easier than expected. Chapter 2879. Those 2 should have become food by now, Ningtai Johnson said. Definitely. Let's think about how to exchange the gold for the resources we need. Herm was more concerned about how to exchange the gold for money or resources. You've been outside for so long. Do you know anyone or have connections? Ningtai Johnson shook his head. I'll ask someone, but I'm not sure yet. In the past, he had never considered these problems, so he naturally wouldn't interact with people like that. After all, their identities meant that they had to keep a low profile. But it was different now. He didn't think that he'd actually rob a bank one day. And the most important thing was they had succeeded. So now, they had to worry about how to exchange the gold. However, at this moment, the alarm suddenly rang. What's wrong? The alarm at the entrance was triggered, Herm said, frowning. Show me the surveillance footage. Herm immediately pulled up the surveillance footage. and two figures appeared on the screen. The two of them swaggered into the passageway. "They're not dead." Herm was shocked. "It's him." Ningtai Johnson was even more shocked because he recognized one of them. It was the sponsor he'd gone to get not long ago. "You know him? He's rich, very rich." Ningtai Johnson's eyes sparkled as he said, "Let them in. They're definitely a fat sheep." Herm thought about it and didn't object to Ningtai Johnson's suggestion. They'd robbed a large amount of gold, but they couldn't exchange it for cash yet. Now that another fat sheep had come to them, there was no reason to let them go. After finding the entrance, Chun Zhao led the way in. He didn't care about traps at all. Oro was the only one who had always been cautious. This tunnel was different from the cave before. It should be an abandoned underground fortification, but looked quite old. Along the way, there was also water seeping. There were lights above them. They seemed to be working normally. Oro suddenly stopped and looked up. "There's surveillance," Oro said worriedly, his expression changing. "Okay, got it," Chun Zhao said, unconcerned. "They must have found us. What do we do? Should we leave now?" Oro was still planning to escape. He had no choice. The cave in front of him had already shown him the fate of his comrades. He didn't want to be one of them. Therefore, if he could run, he would naturally run. "We're already here, and you're still thinking of running. In a few more steps, we'll be facing the big boss behind the scenes. No matter how I look at it, this looks like a trap. If they can raise so many monsters in that cave, they probably have a lot of monsters in their lair. Don't worry, I didn't have the chance to fight just now. I'll show you a thing or two later," Chun Zhao said, patting Oro's shoulder. But the more Chun Zhao said, the less confident Oro was. However, what surprised them was that they did not encounter any attacks along the way. The tunnel was eerily quiet. The dim yellow light seemed to indicate something. Oro was not happy. He felt that the silence was like a movie. They would be dragged into the abyss in the next instant. Suddenly, the sound of metal clashing came from behind. Oro stopped and turned around in confusion. "What's that sound?" But the next moment, Chun Zhao grabbed Oro and sprinted forward. "What's wrong? What happened?" Bang, bang, bang. Oro was pulled forward by Chun Zhao, but his eyes were still looking behind. Metal doors were falling down one after another. The sound of metal clashing came from the metal door landing on the ground. Run! Oro finally understood why Chun Zhao was pulling him forward. Finally, Chun Zhao stopped. They were in a spacious hemispherical room with an H on the ground. It was probably used to park helicopters in the past. There were also a few large metal doors around. Oro finally stopped too. "Is there no other way?" Chun Zhao shook his head. For him, there was no such thing as no other way. If he wanted to, he could just punch his way through the mountain. Just then, footsteps came from the tunnel above. The two looked up and saw two people walk out. What a surprise. Ningtai Johnson looked down at Chun Zhao from above. "I didn't expect a billionaire to be a spiritualist." Chun Zhao was surprised too. He did not expect to meet Ningtai Johnson again. Especially in a situation like this, I didn't expect a sponsor salesman to be a bank thief either. Can't help it. The environment hasn't been good recently, so I've decided to develop a side business. Ningtai Johnson was quite relaxed now. Chun Zhao had fallen into his trap. He'd been to Chun Zhao's house. It was too luxurious. Anyone who could own such a manor would be super rich in any era. So, I think people in the spiritual world shouldn't play in finance. So, I'm going to change my profession. Professional robbery? That's not a smart decision. You're not smart either. You're a billionaire, but you're risking yourself. Ningtai Johnson did not hide his mockery at all. "Did you come here to deposit something in the bank, and we happen to steal it?" "No, I'm here to uphold justice," Chun Zhao said, smiling. "Ha!" Ningtai Johnson laughed. "Are you kidding me? A capitalist says he's going to uphold justice? To be precise, you're causing trouble on my turf. Isn't that what happens in movies and TV shows? Superman's home base is Metropolis, and Batman's home base is Gotham City. This is my home base. Now that you're causing trouble in my home base, I need to punish you as the host." The three people present all thought that Chun Zhao was stupid. Even Oro, who was his teammate, thought the same. "Okay, Mr. Superhero, how do you plan to punish us?" "I'll kill you and then return what you stole to the owner." What do you think of the script? Ningtai Johnson had a disdainful smile on his face. It's a very cliché. How about this? You surrender now and transfer your assets to me. How's that? It's very novel, but as the person involved, I don't like it. I still like to follow my script. Ningtai Johnson took a remote control and opened a metal door at the side. It was originally a warehouse used to store helicopters, but now there was a body inside. A body that was at least 10 meters tall, with swollen limbs and a fat head. What if I add this? Can I convince you to change the script? Chapter 2880. Chun Zhao was surprised, not because of the size of the body. Rather, he was surprised by its technique. This huge body was a man-made product. It wasn't a summoned creature or a stitched thing. It was a shell made with magic. But Chun Zhao knew about the prices in the spiritual world. Such a huge body would cost at least $10 million. Oro had already sat on the ground. He was really scared out of his wits. Ningtai Johnson was rather proud. Showing his work to outsiders was probably his favorite thing to do. Unfortunately, there weren't many opportunities like this. After all, almost no one could make it here alive. As for the two in front of them, if they hadn't intentionally let them in, they would have died on the way. This is our work. We call it the Labyrinth Seed. Labyrinth Seed? What a strange name. It comes from the magic we use. We call it labyrinth magic. We're best at summoning. This isn't summoning, right? We created this based on the labyrinth creatures. Most of the labyrinth creatures are not strong, but they have very strong vitality. This body was created from the flesh and blood of the labyrinth creatures. I won't go into the process. You won't understand anyway. Ningtai Johnson said proudly. Also, if you don't cooperate, there's no need for you to listen to me. With this dead meat? Forgive me for being blunt, but isn't this too childish? If you think you can scare me with this kind of inanimate object, you'd better prepare an escape route. Dead meat. You think it's dead meat? Ningtai Johnson glanced at Herm beside him. Herm emitted an aura. Then the dead meat in Chun Zhao's mouth slowly stretched out its limbs. It's not alive, but it's not dead meat either, Ningtai Johnson said. Ningtai Johnson said, "This is the best artificial puppet in the world. Do you know the difference between us now?" Chun Zhao smiled and slowly raised his hand. "I know, but you don't seem to know." Crash! The huge labyrinth seed disintegrated instantly. Blood, flesh, and bones were smashed against the wall behind him by the terrifying force. Half of the room was dyed red. Herm, who was controlling the labyrinth seed, coughed out a mouthful of blood. Ningtai Johnson was dumbfounded. Herm, on the other hand, looked dispirited, and his body looked much thinner. Oro's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. What happened? What happened just now? He didn't think Chun Zhao had done anything. But why did that huge and terrifying body suddenly self-destruct? Ew, how is this possible? Ningtai Johnson exclaimed. Look, this is the difference between us. Chun Zhao smiled at the two, standing on the metal walkway. Ningtai Johnson and Herm's expressions were ugly and even a little panicked. The person opposite them was not an ordinary spiritualist like they thought. This guy was not a North American psychic. This was a powerful cultivator from the East. Let's go. Ningtai Johnson grabbed the dispirited Herm and wanted to escape. Chun Zhao lifted his arm and waved in the air. Ningtai Johnson instantly felt an unprecedented danger. He pressed Herm to the ground, and an extremely terrifying power passed over their heads. The force left a shocking scratch mark on the concrete wall beside them. The scratch mark stretched across half the room. Oro was dumbfounded. What's with this unreasonable scene? He couldn't feel Chun Zhao's power or any aura. He could only see Chun Zhao waving his hand like a lunatic. Then, he left a shocking mark in the room. This guy's a monster, Herm said weakly. We can't escape. We can only fight him head-on. Ningtai Johnson's eyes flashed. Finally, he gritted his teeth. I know. With that, he took out a remote control. The moment he pressed the button, the hemispherical ceiling above them opened. At the same time, the surrounding curved metal doors opened too. Inside the curved metal doors were all giant labyrinth seeds. Above them were elemental labyrinth seeds. These elemental labyrinth seeds were much smaller than normal people. They looked like midgets. However, Their light bodies were able to float in midair. Attack! Herm wanted to say, attack Chunjiao, but Chunjiao waved his hand. Instantly, all the labyrinth seeds, big or small, exploded at the same time. Blood poured down like a downpour. The entire room was dyed crimson. That was their decades of hard work. Herm and Ningtai Johnson's expressions froze. They'd once thought that if they had enough resources, they could even create an army of labyrinth seeds that could sweep the world. But at this moment, their confidence had been destroyed by Chunjiao. No matter how many labyrinth seeds there was no way they could stop this monster-like Eastern cultivator. It was a hopeless feeling. They'd thought that even if they were forced into a corner, the shocking number of labyrinth seeds could turn things around for them. But Chunjiao only needed one hand to bring them back into the abyss of despair in an instant. Bathed in the blood rain, Chunjiao smiled at Ningtai Johnson and Herm. "Can you take me to see the lost items now?" Chunjiao's tone was calm, but Ningtai Johnson and Herm didn't have the courage to refuse. They weren't on the same level at all. To be honest, they felt that Chunjiao was bullying them by coming to them. This was too much. It was like an adult bullying a kindergartner. The two glanced at each other. They were unwilling and hopeless. Chunjiao's unreasonably powerful strength made it useless no matter how unwilling they were. This was a very real problem. Their trump card had been destroyed by Chunjiao in an instant. The only good thing was that Chunjiao didn't kill them yet. At least for now, they still had a chance. Oro followed closely behind Chunjiao. He could finally relax now. He didn't know what had happened. What he didn't know was definitely because of magic. Without a doubt, Chunjiao was an unbelievably powerful exorcist. Herm and Ningtai Johnson brought Chunjiao to their warehouse. There were a few labyrinth seeds guarding the place. Of course, the two of them did not let the labyrinth seeds attack. After all, the attacks of these labyrinth seeds were useless against him. When Oro saw the messy pile of gold on the ground, his eyes widened. "We can give you this gold." Herm stared straight at Chunjiao. "We promise we won't leak any information." Chapter 2881. Herm's intentions were clear. "You can have the gold. Let's go." Chunjiao smiled. If he really needed to keep the gold for himself, he would choose a safer way to keep it a secret. Chunjiao took out his phone. "There was signal here. Amira, I'll send you a location. Bring some people over to get your gold. Bring me to your lab. You should be making those things here, right? They're called labyrinth seeds." Ningtai Johnson was very dissatisfied with the things Chunjiao mentioned. He felt that their research results needed to be respected, even if the labyrinth seeds were a byproduct. Of course, they still brought Chunjiao to tour their lab, but the scene was too beautiful. Basically, any cruel experiment that humans could think of could be satisfied here. Slicing? Slicing was the most basic. There were human experiments, as well as biological experiments. Chunjiao looked at the experiments with a normal attitude. After all, Blackie was also doing experiments with Chunjiao. But because of Blackie, there were basically no live experiments. Blackie couldn't kill, so Chunjiao basically provided dead things. There were too many inhumane experiments here. But Chunjiao wasn't concerned about that. He held a copy of Ningtai Johnson's experiment report. "Your labyrinth seeds experiment should be considered a success, right? This data doesn't seem to be a labyrinth seed experiment. This is our initial plan, the immortality experiment." "Oh, you're planning to make yourself immortal?" "Not just immortal. Immortality also means immortality and rebirth." "How's the progress?" Chunjiao didn't believe that anyone could create true immortality. This was because Chunjiao had done similar experiments before. Of course, Chunjiao and Blackie weren't passionate about it, so there weren't any results. There were a few extremely difficult ones that were basically unbreakable. So, Chunjiao and Blackie gave up on this research. Chunjiao didn't need to rely on experiments now. He had a body that was close to immortality. At least, he could be immune to most injuries. Even at the end of his lifespan, his body wouldn't decay. Of course, this was only the immortality of his body. Chunjiao's tremendous vitality didn't give him a similarly long lifespan. But under normal circumstances, he could still live longer than most people. According to Ningtai Johnson and Herm's definition of immortality, longevity, undying, rebirth, based on these 3 points, Chen Zhao was still far from longevity. There was even a gap between him and some old monsters. Chen Zhao was very close to the second option of not dying. Of course, this was because Chen Zhao's body was too strong. Even after death, it was very difficult for the body to naturally decompose. It was similar to Apollo's body that Chen Zhao had encountered in the past. His body was not naturally decomposed either. Chen Zhao understood the third rebirth as the regrowth of a limb or part of a body. At the moment, Chen Zhao could do this. As long as his head wasn't half destroyed, he could still grow some limbs. Chen Zhao and Blackie had also experimented and cultivated Chen Zhao's own cells. However, the results were not satisfactory. The life force and energy contained in the cells made it difficult to nurture them, unless he could get 2 nuclear power plants to continuously supply energy to the culture tank. Therefore, Chen Zhao still had the right to speak about these experiments. How far have you progressed in your research? Longevity. We've broken through the limit of human lifespan. We've added the organs of labyrinth creatures into our bodies. We can probably live for 300 to 400 years. We've been asleep for 800 years. When we wake up, our body functions will rapidly decay. If we don't have any breakthroughs in our research in the next few years, we'll quickly age and die. Chen Zhao glanced at the two. They weren't weak. Of course, their research level wasn't weak either. However, Chen Zhao definitely wouldn't intervene or invest in it. He couldn't have anything to do with this. Chen Zhao patted Oro's shoulder. Oro, go back. Forget everything you saw today. Oro's expression changed slightly. He realized what Chen Zhao meant. It wasn't good to know too much about some things. Herm and Ningtai Johnson both looked at Chen Zhao meaningfully. Maybe keeping him is a good choice, Herm said. Oro's scalp was numb. If they really wanted to kill him, he had no way to escape. I don't like keeping secrets like this, Chen Zhao said calmly. So, Oro, please cherish this opportunity. Don't make me regret this decision, okay? I promise I'll leave now. I've never been here. Oro hurriedly left. Chen Zhao glanced at the two. I'm going to recommend you to an organization. Organization? What organization? Herm and Ningtai Johnson didn't like being restricted or ordered. However, they didn't have much choice now. A rich organization with a government background, Chen Zhao said. You just have to show them your labyrinth seeds, and they'll be happy to take you in. They might even give you a large amount of research funding. The two glanced at each other. Both were hesitant. There is no doubt that their current research had stagnated largely because of their lack of funding. Our identities aren't that clear. They'd slept together for hundreds of years. Herm still didn't have a legal identity. Ningtai Johnson used someone else's identity, so their identity was taboo. How to make up your identity is your problem. Also, that organization is my enemy. The two immediately understood that Chen Zhao wanted them to be spies. No, it wasn't just that. Chen Zhao wanted to use the enemy's funding for experiments. Moreover, these experiments had nothing to do with him. Even if they were exposed in the future, he wouldn't be implicated. Oro sprinted in the forest. Suddenly, a figure landed beside him. Seeing that it was Chen Zhao, Oro immediately sat on the ground. He was here to silence Oro. Don't be scared. I'm not here to silence you. Smiling, Chen Zhao looked at Oro. I'm not someone who goes back on my word. I'm just asking if you're interested in working for me. Oro stared at Chen Zhao with a pale face. You're really not going to kill me. Even if you tell others, I only need to spend a few $100,000 to cover up the news. Then, I'll spend a few tens of thousands to make you die on the streets. To me, what you see and know isn't that valuable. I only want to hire you because you're more convenient. What do you want me to do? Help you kill people? No. Pick up my kids or be their chauffeur. Chen Zhao shrugged. You know that sleeping late is a hard symptom to overcome, so I'm considering finding a professional chauffeur. You're a good candidate. Chapter 2882. Could Oro refuse? He didn't dare to. He was afraid that Chen Zhao would send him to be human feed. That was really possible. Chen Zhao's terror had left a deep impression in his heart. All the tricks in horror movies didn't work on him. No, maybe it did. He'd been wrong from the start. Chun Zhao wasn't an exorcist in horror movies. He was the villain of a horror movie. That's right. In Oro's heart, Chun Zhao was a big boss, a demon king. As for Herm and Ningtai Johnson, they were just small fries. Fortunately, Chun Zhao's salary wasn't low. At the very least, Chun Zhao's promised salary was double that of the same job. After returning to the city, Oro was in a good mood. The journey with Chun Zhao had made him tremble in fear. He didn't need to worry that Chun Zhao would suddenly strangle him and throw him on the side of the road. If Chun Zhao really wanted to do that, he would have done it long ago. Remember to pick up my kids before 9 tomorrow morning. With that, Chun Zhao chased Oro out of the car. On the way back, Chun Zhao's phone rang again. Chun, the gold has been sent back to the bank. It was Amira. Without any small talk, she went straight to the point. You're really fast. I just got back to the city, and you've already moved the gold back? I used a helicopter, Amira said. No matter who it was, they would deal with dozens of tons of gold as quickly and carefully as possible. Amira didn't want anything to happen to the gold again. This time, she'd found an armed helicopter and hired a fully armed army to protect the gold. After regaining what she'd lost, she couldn't be too careful. Also, I transferred $50 million to your card. You know that it's meaningless. Chun Zhao had helped this time not only because Amira had committed a crime in his territory. It was also because of his friendship with Amira. If it was someone else from another bank, Chun Zhao would have looked for them, but he might not have been so diligent. Even if they found something, they'd probably keep it for themselves. $50 million was pretty much the amount of cash that Amira had been robbed this time. She filled in a small change for Chun Zhao as payment. She was also the person who knew Chun Zhao's net worth and income the best. She knew better than Chun Zhao that the $50 million was only his income in a few days. But this was her attitude. Friendship was friendship, but it couldn't be taken for granted. I know. If it was the police who helped me retrieve the item, I would probably only give them a thank you letter, said Amira. All right, I'll take the money. Chun, do you think I should hire a few of your peers? Or can you introduce me to a few? Amelia's idea was not baseless. This incident had given her a wake-up call. Her father had encountered the same thing in the past. There was also the incident with the Devil's Gold. Every time, it was Chun Zhao's help that resolved the crisis. Furthermore, she was helpless against the troubles brought about by the spirit world. But she couldn't trouble him every time. Favors will run out. She and Chun Zhao were equals now. She didn't want to have to beg Chun Zhao one day. Sure, if you need, I can introduce a professional to you. In the future, most of these problems can be solved, Chun Zhao answered straightforwardly. After all, there was no harm in introducing the supernatural organization to Amira. The organization's funding came from the Ministry of Security. Part of it came from independent income. Helping rich people solve their problems was one of their ways of earning money. And Amira was the richest of the rich. Thus, accepting her employment was the best choice. Chun Zhao did not have the upper hand. If Amira really wanted to find someone, she would definitely be able to. So, instead of asking her to find someone else, it was better to help her own people. Amira had told Chun Zhao this because she trusted him. First of all, Chun Zhao was rich. Second of all, his abilities were obvious. Moreover, Chun Zhao was her business partner. Their interests overlapped in many ways. Thus, Amira had asked Chun Zhao to introduce her because of various considerations. I want the best. Money isn't a problem. It's best if it's someone at your level. Amira clearly didn't know much about the spirit world. Otherwise, she wouldn't have said something like this. Dear Miss Amira, I think you're mistaken. You basically can't hire someone at my level or mine. I know you're rich, probably even richer than me. I'm not hiring you. Then, how much money do you think is enough to hire the Vatican's Pope? I don't dare to use money to insult him. You can treat me like him. I might not be as high as him in terms of status, but we're on the same level in the spirit world. It's the same for others who are on the same level as us. If you take out all your cash, you might be able to get them to help you a little. But if you want them to follow you around and protect you all day, you have no other choice but to lower your requirements. So, you have a lot of status in the spirit world, right? I'm just more powerful. Not really. It's like in the capital market. I'm not the most famous, but I'm definitely one of the richest. Amira roughly understood what Chen Zhao meant. Okay, if I encounter something like this again, can the person you recommend help me solve it? Yes, Chen Zhao answered with certainty. If he said he wasn't sure, he'd be sabotaging himself. I'll give you a contact number. You can contact him yourself. Can I mention you? Yes, just say I recommended him. Chen Zhao didn't want to talk about his relationship with a supernatural organization. West would definitely know how to say it. In terms of cooperation, both sides still had to hold back. It was just like how Amira wouldn't tell Chen Zhao everything. Chen Zhao was obviously the same. Before he reached home, he received another call from West. President, a lady called Amira just called me. She said you recommended her. Yeah, what did you say? I haven't completely agreed yet. I said that I'll talk to her tomorrow. What do you think about the price and hiring method? She's rich. She really runs a bank. Chen Zhao's answer was simple. Rich, very rich. Of course, he wanted as much as he could get. Although they wouldn't sign any contract, this was a business cooperation. Okay, I'll try my best. West had called to ask for Chen Zhao's opinion. If it was help between friends, then it would be friendship price. If it was a cooperation, then naturally, he wanted as much money as he could. Chapter 2883. The next day, Oro arrived at Chen Zhao's house. Chen Zhao let a bunch of kids out. Oro was dumbfounded. He thought that Chen Zhao only had 1 or 2 kids. But the number was far beyond his imagination. Chen Zhao introduced Oro to the kids. Oro also adjusted his attitude. He accepted being a professional chauffeur. It was Oro's first time picking up kids. Of course, Chen Zhao had to follow. Ignoring whether he didn't trust Oro, he had to at least point him in the right direction. After sending the older children to school, it was time to go to kindergarten. Ampa stood at the door. Seeing Chen Zhao's car, she immediately walked over. Chen Zhao was a major shareholder of the kindergarten. She had to show enough respect. Even in kindergarten, Chen Zhao's kids enjoyed special treatment. Hi, Chen. Ampa greeted warmly. Ampa, good morning. Ampa's gaze drifted to Oro, who was in the driver's seat. He is my chauffeur. He'll be in charge of picking up the kids to and from school. Ampa nodded. She wasn't surprised. Usually, it was Portia and Zephra who picked up the kids. They were both Chen Zhao's assistants. It was more reasonable to have a professional chauffeur. After chatting with Ampa for a while, Chen Zhao received a call from an unknown number. It was an unknown number. However, there weren't many people who knew this number. Hello, who is it? Do you have time? The voice was unfamiliar. Chen Zhao frowned. He didn't know who it was. The person just asked him if he had time. Even his friends wouldn't talk to him like this. Chen Zhao was a bit unhappy. Impatiently, he asked, Who are you? After a few seconds of silence, the person said, I'm Mordery. Then Chen Zhao fell silent. You're the Mordery I know? I'm at XXX in San Francisco. Mordery gave Chen Zhao an address. Chen Zhao had a lot on his mind. He couldn't tell if it was Mordery, but he still decided to go to San Francisco. He called Fei Lai and told her that he was going to San Francisco. He also asked Portia to help him book a plane ticket. Then he hurried to the airport. Along the way, Chen Zhao kept wondering if it was Mordery. But after thinking for a long time, he still couldn't come to a conclusion. San Francisco and Los Angeles were only a few hundred kilometers apart, so Chen Zhao landed quickly. Chen Zhao rented a car from the car rental company at the airport and went to the address. The address was located in the suburbs of San Francisco. It was very, very remote. If not for the GPS, he wouldn't even be able to find this place. It was a small town on the outskirts of San Francisco. Most of the residents here were farmers. After confirming the address again, Chen Zhao stood in front of a door. After a moment of hesitation, Chen Zhao knocked on the door. The one who opened the door was a woman in her 30s. She looked quite beautiful. Hello, who are you looking for? Air. I think I got the wrong place. Sorry. Chen Zhao was about to leave. Just then, a tall man came out of the house. He was taller than the woman by a head. Chen, you're in the right place, the tall man said. Chen Zhao was stunned. This is Mordery? His face changed, but Chen Zhao was sure that this guy was Mordery. His height, figure, voice, mannerisms, and smile were all like Morgary's, except for his face. "You long time no see. Didn't you recognize me?" Morgary came out and patted Chun Zhao's shoulder, chuckling. "Ellie, let me introduce you. This is my good friend, Chun." "Hello, Chun. Please come in." The woman called Ellie also smiled and welcomed Chun Zhao into the house. Morgary brought Chun Zhao to the backyard. It was a small, single-family mansion. It was about a few hundred square meters, and the house only took up about 100 square meters. The rest of the space was for the yard. Ellie went to prepare some food for the two. "Tell me, what happened?" Chun Zhao asked, somewhat dissatisfied. "A year ago, I've been planning a way to escape. A few months ago, I accidentally found out that the English gang was infiltrating the gangs in LA. I suddenly realized that my chance had come. Of course, in order for the plan to go smoothly, it could only be a country with an unstable regime like Africa. I rented a plane and caused that crash. Then I changed my identity and came back." Morgary touched his face. "Then I changed my face. Even the plastic surgeon is a black doctor. He's quite skilled. You should have asked me to do the plastic surgery for you," Chun Zhao said with a dark expression. "I'm sorry for making you worry for so long," Morgary said apologetically. "I heard about what happened in Los Angeles," Morgary said apologetically. "Thank you for helping me deal with the aftermath. Where's Ellie?" "My wife. We're having a wedding this weekend. She's a mother of a child. I need a few relatives and friends to make up the numbers." "That's why you came to me?" "Fuck." Chun Zhao was rather unhappy, but Chun Zhao was more relieved. Morgary was still alive. "What about Victoria? Don't tell me you forgot about her." "She's fine," Morgary replied. "She's in that mountain over there. This is a hunting zone, so she won't be in any danger. I'll also visit her regularly every week." "Okay, I forgive you." Chun Zhao was happy that Morgary could be reborn, even if he hid it from Chun Zhao. This was the best home for Morgary. As for the chaos caused by his disappearance, it didn't matter anymore. Morgary didn't inform Chun Zhao just because of the wedding. It was also because of trust, just like when Morgary was at his most difficult time. Chun Zhao helped him the same way. He hoped that Chun Zhao wouldn't feel sad for him anymore. "This weekend, Fei Lai and I will come with our children." "Oh, I'm Peyton Andre now. I was born in Washington. Don't get it wrong. I'm a middle school PE teacher in this town." "Gentlemen, can you come and help me?" Ellie called from inside the house. "Help me bring the beer in." Beer and barbecue. The two chatted happily. They were very happy and relaxed. Morgary's entire body, mind, and aura were completely different from before. Chun Zhao was happy for Morgary's change. In the past, Morgary was completely immersed in darkness. Especially after he became the ruler of LA's underground, he lost his smile. The smile Chun Zhao saw today was more than all the time he'd known Morgary in the past. The two drank until Ellie's child finished school, a child who admired Morgary a lot. Chapter 2884. "Andre, you're really happy today. Is it because of that friend of yours?" "I'm happy every day," Morgary said, holding Ellie's hand. "No, today's the most special. You must be really close to him." "Yes, very. You can say that he's the person I trust the most other than you." Ellie was also happy that Morgary's friend could visit him. When Morgary interacted with Chun Zhao, the feeling was completely different from when she interacted with him. Ellie couldn't tell what the difference was, but she could feel it. Of course, Ellie wouldn't be jealous because of a man. She was mature enough, both physically and mentally. She'd once had a failed marriage. Now, she really treasured the man before her. Chun Zhao leaned against the window. He stared at the wilderness under the night sky. When they were drinking, Morgary said that he'd met his mother, Ellie, because of this child. Then they fell in love. Anyway, it was a melodramatic story. But strangely, it was touching. Morgary actually had a lot of money. So, he didn't need Chun Zhao's support. Plus, the money had been laundered through some complicated channels. This was the backup plan he'd prepared in the beginning. But Morgary was very satisfied with his current life. If it wasn't necessary, he wouldn't touch the money. Chun Zhao drank a lot today. He even needed someone to drive for him before he left. Seeing Morgary again was probably the best thing that had happened to him in a while. "Is this the way to the airport?" "No, sir. the driver replied. The designated driver replied, but you'd better wait obediently. We don't want to get hurt, don't you think? Chun Zhao thought about it and asked, do you live in this area? Of course. Everyone here knows me. The driver clearly thought that Chun Zhao was an outsider who was easy to bully. Especially since Chun Zhao had yellow skin, he was the best target. Do you have any power or organization? Why are you asking so many questions? Chun Zhao chuckled. I hope you can take me to your gang's headquarters. What? Drive faster. I have to catch a flight later. 3 hours later, Chun Zhao returned to Los Angeles. As soon as he left the airport, a woman in a red dress walked toward him. A familiar face. It was Zhu Hongyi. According to Zhang Tianyi, the disciples of the Five Elements sect were from the Zhuge clan. Zhou Yinan had invited him to cause trouble for Chun Zhao. In the end, Chun Zhao let him go. Chun Zhao did not expect to see Zhu Hongyi here. Mr. Chun, Blood Mary is waiting for you. Her? Why are you looking for me? I don't know. When Zhu Hongyi looked at Chun Zhao, her eyes were filled with respect. After all, she had used all her strength last time and had to resort to trickery to save her life. Later, she accepted the invitation of the 23rd Blood Mary and joined the Scarlet Church. The 23rd generation Blood Mary told her that it was not because of her strength and ability that she survived. It was only because they saw the value in her that she survived. Chun Zhao was the strongest person in the world right now. Lead the way. Although the 23rd generation Blood Mary had been in Los Angeles for a while. However, every time they met, it was at the base where Ares was held captive. Chun Zhao still didn't know where she lived. Zhu Hongyi brought Chun Zhao to a manor in the dense forest. Before he could enjoy the scenery of the manor, 2 more cars stopped. The 23rd generation Blood Mary and Biflo were here too. You're here too? Chun Zhao asked in surprise. Did the old witch call us here too? Zhang Tianyi asked. I don't know. She's so mysterious. Chun Zhao shook his head. I don't know. She's so mysterious. You and her have been so mysterious recently. Is it related to this? Zhang Tianyi asked. Chun Zhao was shocked. No way. The 23rd generation succeeded? Chun Zhao could not be sure if it was true. Please come in. Zhu Hongyi led the way. Chun Zhao, Zhang Tianyi, and Bifla subconsciously used their small world to sense the entire manor. However, the 3 could not sense the 23rd generation Blood Mary's location. As Zhu Hongyi led the way, they finally realized why they could not sense Blood Mary. They walked down the winding stairs for more than 30 minutes. Going all the way down, it should be about a few thousand meters deep. No wonder they could not sense the 23rd generation Blood Mary's aura. So, she was hidden so deep underground. But soon, they sensed the 23rd generation Blood Mary's aura. It was very clear, very powerful, and unreserved. She was more powerful than ever before. The 3 of them were visibly moved. It had to be known that releasing such an aura. Basically, they were at their strongest. But the 23rd generation Blood Mary was still releasing it. What's that old witch doing? Is she fighting some strong enemy? Does she not want to live anymore? Zhu Hongyi walked in front, completely ignoring the words of the 3 behind him. She had no right to answer any questions. The deeper they went, the more shocking the 23rd generation Blood Mary's aura became. The 3 were all confused. By now, Zhu Hongyi could no longer go down. Further down, the aura was so powerful that it was almost tangible. It almost suffocated her. Go up, Zhang Tianyi said calmly. We'll walk the rest of the way ourselves. We shouldn't get lost. Zhu Hongyi thought about it and nodded. No matter how unwilling she was, she could not fight against this terrifying aura. The 23rd generation Blood Mary had said that she had a chance to become the second Chun Zhao, but that would take at least 10 years, or even longer. But before breaking through to the Shanqing realm, she had no right to talk to the top of the Shanqing realm. She didn't even have the right to face them. The 3 continued going down. None of them dared to say that they could win against the 23rd generation Blood Mary in this state. Powerful, indescribably powerful. What followed was the high temperature. It rose by 1 degree with each step. Chun Zhao did not care. He fought head-on. Bifla did not care. He cultivated the main fire. This bit of temperature did not affect him at all. Zhang Tianyi could not take it anymore. He added a dozen buffs to himself. He was a bit envious of Chun Zhao and Bifla. He wondered if he should practice body-strengthening spells when he went back. Although he couldn't compare to Qin Zhao, he could still be useful in certain situations. When they reached the bottom, the temperature had reached almost 1,000 degrees. The 23rd generation Blood Mary was sitting not far away. There were no enemies here. She was the only one. "Mary, are you crazy?" Zhang Tianyi asked. The 23rd generation Blood Mary looked at the three and said, "I'm going to become a god. I need you three to be my witnesses." Chapter 2885. Become a god? "I think you're going to die soon," Zhang Tianyi said, looking at 23rd Blood Mary seriously. He didn't have many thoughts about becoming a god. To the four people present, gods might be rare, but they definitely weren't something that they needed to fear. In terms of ability, they could already challenge any god. They were more curious about the gods. Of course, they were also curious about the current 23rd Blood Mary. But they definitely wouldn't treat 23rd Blood Mary like how they treated Ares. The four of them had a cooperative relationship based on mutual benefits. Chun Zhao was the last to join, but he'd already made enough contributions. This time, 23rd Blood Mary called them all here. On one hand, she wanted the three of them to protect her. On the other hand, she wanted them to watch from the side. On the other hand, she wanted them to watch from the side. Of course, 23rd Blood Mary wasn't sure if she could succeed. Of course, 23rd Blood Mary wasn't sure if she could succeed. "I feel the lack of spiritual qi around us. Are you devouring large amounts?" Zhang Tianyi asked. "With your devouring speed, the surrounding spiritual qi will dry up completely in less than half an hour. Your devouring process will stop too." "I can't help it," 23rd Blood Mary said helplessly. "I can't find another place. There are places with abundant spiritual qi in Los Angeles, but most of those places were close to the city or populated." 23rd Blood Mary wasn't sure how much influence her process of becoming a god would have. Chun Zhao took out his black trident and stabbed it into the ground. At the same time, he activated the black trident. There were 13 old turtles' internal alchemy embedded in the black trident. Chun Zhao had only activated 2 of them so far, but one was enough to turn an area into a paradise. Instantly, the entire room was filled with a huge amount of spiritual qi. 23rd Blood Mary perked up. Zhang Tianyi and Bifla couldn't help but look at the black trident in Chun Zhao's hand. This was a weapon that could hurt or even kill them. They instinctively felt that the weapon had an extraordinary origin, but no matter how hard they thought, they couldn't figure out where it came from. It wasn't Zhang Tianyi's first time seeing a black trident on Godslayer. Chun Zhao had also used the black trident against Mr. Jun Fong last time, but at that time, he didn't have too many feelings. After all, Chun Zhao's personal power still concealed other things. The 23rd generation of Blood Mary was noticeably smoother. In the process of this transformation, she needed even more spiritual energy of the world. Previously, she had been in a state of hypoxia. The surrounding spiritual energy was not enough for her to complete this process. "Why did you suddenly start the process of becoming a god?" Bifla asked. Zhang Tianyi immediately looked at Chun Zhao. He also wanted to know the reason. Logically speaking, anyone here had a better chance than the 23rd Blood Mary. Zhang Tianyi thought that he had gained a lot of knowledge from Ares. However, there was still a long way to go before he could become a god. Bifla had also gained a lot. Chun Zhao's cultivation was the highest, and he was the first to come into contact with Ares. He had even fought with Ares and felt his divine kingdom. Only Blood Mary of the 23rd generation had the least contact with Ares. Her strength, knowledge, and even her gains were not the greatest. Why was she the first to become a god? Of course, it wasn't that they had any hopes of becoming a god. To them, becoming a god should be a process of transformation. Even if the opportunity to become a god was placed before them, they might not accept it. They were more interested in the path of becoming a god. They hoped that they could comprehend the principle of reaching the same goal through different means and perfect their own path. For people like Blood Mary of the 23rd generation, she had no other choice. Facing the end of her life, she could only choose to become a god. She used this method to prolong her existence. Blood Mary glanced at Chun Zhao. Obtain something from Chun Zhao. More accurately, it's a transaction. What is it? The golden apple, which is the original theocracy that Ares mentioned. Zhang Tianyi and Biflis sucked in a breath of cold air. They really didn't expect Chun Zhao to have something like this. They were even more shocked that Blood Mary of the 23rd generation could actually afford it. What did she use to exchange for the golden apple? Right now, Blood Mary was not in the mood to explain anymore. Her body was undergoing a huge change. Slowly, Blood Mary 23's hair started to fall out. She had a scabby head and looked really ugly. However, the roots of her scabby head were growing tender blonde hair. The skin on her face was falling off too. It wasn't just skin flakes, but skin that was still stained with blood and flesh. Her face was bloody and full of holes. It was terrifying. A pained expression appeared on Blood Mary's face. The other three sat in 3 different directions of Blood Mary of the 23rd generation. No one could help her relieve the pain. They were also worried that they would be more of a hindrance. The spiritual energy of the world is being compressed and transformed in my body. It's a completely different process from transforming into magic power. Although the 23rd generation Blood Mary was in great pain, she was still able to articulate her thoughts clearly. What kind of transformation is it? The first step is to remove the impurities, just like transforming them into magic power. Then, it passes through the brain and seems to activate a certain function in the brain center. After passing through the brain center, it flows to this position, the dantian. As Blood Mary of the 23rd generation spoke, her face was completely unrecognizable. There was no skin at all. It was completely flesh and blood. This should be divine power. The 3 followed Blood Mary's instructions, but they couldn't do the second step. I can't. After removing the impurities, the spiritual energy of the world becomes very pure. If I let this energy flow into my brain, it'll explode, Biflis said. Chun Zhao and Zhang Tianyi gave up too. They felt the same. My body is starting to change. Cough, cough. Wah. As she spoke, Blood Mary of the 23rd generation suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood. My body is starting to reject it. However, compared to the immense divine power, my body's rejection reaction is difficult to resist. Fortunately, this process is not too intense. Otherwise, my body would have directly collapsed. This kind of process is still acceptable. The shedding of skin tissue is acceptable, and then the decay of the body's organs, which are then remodeled and awakened by divine power. This process is very dangerous, and if it was someone slightly weaker, they would probably die in this process. Just then, the short hair on Blood Mary's head was growing at a visible speed. Chapter 2886. Her metabolism was changing the 23rd Blood Mary's flesh and skin hundreds of times faster than normal. Her body wasn't hunched anymore. Her skin wasn't loose anymore. Her eyes weren't turbid anymore. Do you have to release all your power to the max when you become a god? Zhang Tianyi asked. I'm not releasing my original power. I'm dispersing it, 23rd Blood Mary answered. The old and new powers will clash. If you want to completely accept the divine power, you have to give up your original power. So, I dispersed my original magic power in advance to prevent the clash from being too intense. It's a pity to give up your original power, Biflis said. I'm not giving up completely. I'm only giving up magic power, 23rd Blood Mary answered. The 23rd Blood Mary replied, techniques, and comprehensions won't be lost because of this. For the 4 present, magic power or mana was something they didn't lack at all. If they wanted, they could accumulate 10 times their own magic power the next day. But there was no point in having so much magic power apart from setting off fireworks. Among the 4 of them, 23rd Blood Mary was about to give up her magic power and turn into divine power. The other 3 were refining their magic power to obtain pure power. 23rd Blood Mary didn't give up her power system. The true essence of her power system came from her understanding of the Tao and knowledge, not magic power. What divinity did you choose? Chen Zhao asked. I didn't choose any divinity. It's what the golden apple gave me. I don't have a choice, 23rd Blood Mary answered. Blood Mary replied, Air, I control the air. Although I haven't completed the ascended process, I can suffocate half a city with a single thought. That's a bit useless, Chen Zhao said, rubbing his chin. It was true that the 23rd generation Blood Mary was ridiculously strong in terms of AoE damage. She was like a walking nuclear warhead now, but the three of them could do it with a bit of effort. So, such large-scale damage was really meaningless to people of the same level. They couldn't just hope for people of the same level to suffocate to death, right? Of course, Chen Zhao didn't believe that 23rd Blood Mary was only capable of this after becoming a god. The power she mentioned was air, but it didn't mean that air could only suffocate people. At this moment, a terrifying air current approached the west coast. The tropical storm that came out of nowhere scared the west coast warning system. The data fed back by the weather ball on the sea directly scared the hell out of all the early warning personnel. At that moment, the 23rd Blood Mary suddenly opened her eyes and said, You guys need to help me deal with the aftermath. I didn't expect to trigger an astronomical phenomenon. It's not under my control, but I can feel it. What's the situation? Now, with me as the center, there will be a superstorm with an inner ring diameter of more than 20 kilometers and an outer ring diameter of more than 100 kilometers. According to the storm scale, it should be more than 25, and because of the storm, it has already caused a super tsunami on the sponge, and now it is rushing towards the coastline at a speed of 150 kilometers per hour. Chen Zhao frowned. A level 25 superstorm? This kind of natural disaster could basically disintegrate an ordinary house. There is also a tsunami with a speed of 150 kilometers per hour. This thing was basically at the level of killing anyone who stood in its way, and killing Buddha who stood in its way. Then, Chen Zhao remembered that Mingyue Villa was on the coastline. This thing was the most destructive to the coastline. I can stop the tsunami, Chen Zhao said, but the storm can't. Then I'll stop the storm, Bifla said. At least I can deal with it like a normal storm, but I'm not sure how effective it will be. You want to use the hot air to create an internal pressure difference? 23rd Blood Mary asked, and then destroy the structure of the storm? Yes, Bifla answered, nodding. No, I can't control the astronomical phenomenon now. If you don't have enough hot air, it might be absorbed by the storm and become an even stronger one. Let me do it, Zhang Tianyi said, standing up. Bifla, you stay here and protect Mary. 23rd Blood Mary glanced at Zhang Tianyi and didn't speak. This was absolute trust. Since Zhang Tianyi said he would do it, he would definitely do it. Number one in the world wasn't just a title. Do you still need spiritual qi? Chen Zhao asked. I need this thing. No need. You can take it. Chen Zhao pulled out the black trident and walked out. Now that he was tall, he had to support the sky even if it collapsed. Chen Zhao reached home first. Everything was fine. Because of the early warning, the whole family stayed in the house obediently. Chen Zhao didn't ask them to move to Mirror Lake Manor. Although Mingyue Villa was on the coastline, it was more dangerous for them to go out now. Because of the strong wind, cars could even flip over. No matter what, it was safer to stay in the building. Chen Zhao flew 50 kilometers from the coastline and saw the terrifying white lines. They were formed by the distant tsunami. He couldn't see the end. Chen Zhao gulped. Even he wasn't confident in controlling a tsunami of this level. Chen Zhao grabbed the black trident with both hands and took a deep breath. He had to release his power without holding back. Right below Chen Zhao, a tsunami formed, but in the opposite direction. It wasn't weaker than the tsunami, but the scale was far smaller. However, as Chen Zhao continued to unleash his power, the tsunami he created also kept growing in scale. Huh, Chen Zhao roared. The reverse tsunami expanded by 10 times. But this scale was far from enough. Compared to the previous tsunami, Chen Zhao's reverse tsunami wasn't even a tenth. Compared to the previous tsunami, Chen Zhao's reverse tsunami wasn't even a tenth. No, this method was purely a waste of energy. Chen Zhao thought of another method. The reverse tsunami collapsed directly. Chun Zhao changed directions and flew toward the end of the tsunami. After flying for 200 kilometers, he finally found the end of the tsunami. Chun Zhao created a small black ball and shot it into the tsunami. Boom! The black ball drilled a few kilometers into the tsunami and suddenly exploded. The huge impact disintegrated the tsunami several kilometers in front and behind. It was more effective than using the tsunami to fight the tsunami. It seemed like he was more suitable for destruction. The speed of disintegrating the tsunami was much more efficient than before. It also saved more energy. Chun Zhao could create a small black ball in a dozen seconds. A small black ball could cause a huge impact within a few kilometers. The total length of the tsunami was no more than 200 kilometers. So, Chun Zhao could disintegrate the entire tsunami very efficiently. Chapter 2887. It only took half an hour for the entire tsunami to collapse. But this wasn't the end. The storm wasn't over yet. The tsunami came back. It was a never-ending cycle. Unless Zhang Tianyi could deal with the storm quickly, Chun Zhao didn't have a way to defend against a natural disaster of this level. Chun Zhao also lacked a way to defend against it. He could only use the most primitive method, using violence against violence. Of course, it wasn't as efficient as solving the problem from the root. Comparatively, Chun Zhao's destructive power was clearly better. However, the 23rd generation Blood Mary's destructive power was clearly on another level. Becoming a god could already cause such a natural disaster. If he fought her, who knew if she could create an even more terrifying disaster? Old John, how's your side? Are you done yet? If you don't, I won't stop here. Not yet. I'm still preparing. If Zhang Tianyi didn't solve the root problem, Chun Zhao could only guard this coastline. Chun Zhao could only guard this coastline. Not long after, Chun Zhao suddenly felt the cold wind blowing toward him. Chun Zhao couldn't help but look confused. Chun Zhao knew that wind was mostly caused by the collision of hot and cold air, creating a pressure difference. The air in the high-pressure region would flow toward the low-pressure region. The wind brought by the tropical storm mainly came from the Pacific Ocean current. It should be a warm wind, not a cold one. Also, this coldness wasn't normal. It didn't feel like a tropical ocean current. It was more like the wind from Siberia. But Chun Zhao could clearly feel that the wind was much weaker. Zhang Tianyi did this? Chun Zhao was a bit surprised. This feeling was most likely from Zhang Tianyi. But this was a big move. It was much better than Chun Zhao's simple destruction of the structure of the tsunami. Moreover, the scale of the superstorm caused by the 23rd generation Blood Mary was one of the largest in history. If it was Bifla's previous idea, he wanted to create a hot air flow inside the storm to increase the air pressure inside. Then the air pressure outside would become weak, and the air would no longer flow inside. But 23rd Blood Mary was against this idea. If Bifla's hot air couldn't exceed the pressure of the storm, it would only be absorbed by the storm and make it stronger. Zhang Tianyi, on the other hand, was doing the opposite. He was creating cold air from the outside, causing the cold air to be absorbed by the storm, and the cold air would only reduce the wind pressure of the storm, thus reducing the storm's level. Obviously, Zhang Tianyi's method was more difficult. After all, Bifla was inside the storm, and the diameter of the storm's interior was only 20 kilometers. However, Zhang Tianyi was creating cold air outside the storm. The circumference of the storm's exterior was quite shocking, and its surface area was almost the size of California. For example, Chun Zhao had to run for his life against a straight line of tsunamis. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Zhang Tianyi's skill was astonishing. Although Zhang Tianyi usually did whatever he wanted, when it was really necessary, he really dared to take the lead for others. He could do what others couldn't, and there was no doubt about his strength. Suddenly, Chun Zhao's phone rang. Zhang Tianyi roared on the other end. Chun Zhao, I have trouble here. I can't leave. Come and solve it. I can't free myself, Chun Zhao said. Hurry up. What you're good at is killing people and robbing them. You can finish them in 10 minutes. Come over and help me finish them first. Chun Zhao was a bit confused. Who dared to mess with him? Even if Zhang Tianyi couldn't free himself now, not everyone would dare to show off before him. However, from Zhang Tianyi's tone, he seemed to really be in a hurry. Chen Zhao thought about it and decided to go to Zhang Tianyi's direction to see what was going on. Chen Zhao charged toward Zhang Tianyi at full speed. Before he even saw Zhang Tianyi, he could already feel his aura. There was also another equally powerful aura. What was that? It didn't seem like a human's aura, but it was also unbelievably powerful. Chen Zhao found Zhang Tianyi's location and charged over. Zhang Tianyi also had a majestic aura. It was much stronger than the 23rd Blood Mary. Zhang Tianyi's body emitted a blue glow. Before him was a huge, faintly discernible figure. It was vaguely in the shape of a large bird. However, Zhang Tianyi held it with one hand, as if he'd used some spell to freeze the bird. The figure was faintly discernible, but it didn't seem real. "What's that?" Chen Zhao asked. "Wind rock. It eats wind," Zhang Tianyi said. "Where did it come from? If it wants to eat, let it eat. This thing eats wind and also pulls wind. You think it's here to help?" Zhang Tianyi was so angry that his beard straightened. "I'm going to release the restriction. You take over." Chen Zhao nodded. With that, Zhang Tianyi released the restriction. Instantly, the wind rock's huge body appeared. It was a huge bird that was close to 10 miles long. It was so huge that it made people's hair stand on end. The feathers on its body were grayish-white. It was so big that it made people's hair stand on end, and the feathers on its body were gray. The surrounding wind surged and thunder boomed. "Where did this thing come from? Where did this thing come from?" Zhang Tianyi said. "If it rushes into the storm and disturbs the airflow, all my previous efforts will be in vain." Zhang Tianyi said, "If I let it rush into the storm and disturb the airflow of the storm, all my previous efforts will be in vain. If it rushes into the storm and disturbs the airflow, all my previous efforts will be wasted. You can kill it, right? Kill it and give me half of its body." Chen Zhao moved. Boom! The wind rock's huge body crashed into the sea. Zhang Tianyi looked at Chen Zhao's attack and clicked his tongue. Chen Zhao dove headfirst into the sea. The wind rock was about to leap out again. Chen Zhao smacked it on the head again and pushed it back into the sea. The sky was its home ground, but the sea wasn't, especially when Chen Zhao could control seawater. In an instant, the surface of the sea churned, creating a series of terrifying waves. It was as if countless explosive fish had exploded under the sea. A few minutes later, the sea calmed down slightly. The wind rock's huge body was almost shattered. It slowly floated to the surface. "Remember, half of it is mine," Zhang Tianyi reminded Chen Zhao. "I'll keep it for now." Chen Zhao waved his hand and put the wind rock into his spatial ring. However, more than half of the ring was occupied by the wind rock's body. The wind rock was simply too huge. If humans faced something like this, only nuclear weapons could harm it. Chen Zhao suddenly lifted his head and looked at the sky, confused. Zhang Tianyi also revealed a puzzled expression as he looked up at the sky. They seemed to have sensed something. Wind. Even bigger. The wind wasn't caused by the difference in air pressure. The wind carried a vast and majestic spiritual qi. Chen Zhao entered the underground chamber. He saw an unfamiliar blonde, young, and beautiful woman sitting opposite Bifla. Is she the 23rd generation? Chen Zhao asked in shock. Bifla glanced at the two of them and nodded. She has been transforming all this time, and it hasn't stopped. At this time, the 23rd Blood Mary opened her eyes. Her pupils were golden. This was exactly the same as Ares. Her aura was also very similar to Ares's, but also different. Did you succeed? Chen Zhao sensed the aura on the 23rd Blood Mary. Not yet. The 23rd Blood Mary shook her head. My body's transformation hasn't finished. My divine kingdom hasn't been built yet. As she spoke, the 23rd Blood Mary's body started shedding again. However, it wasn't as bloody as before. Of course, in terms of horror, the current her was scarier, because she was shedding her entire human skin. After shedding her skin, the 23rd Blood Mary's even more petite body crawled out. Not only was her body smaller, but her body and appearance had also become younger. She looked like she was in her 20s before, but now, she looked like a teenager. How many times has she undergone this transformation? Chun Zhao asked. Including this time, 9 times, Biflis said. If she's still shedding, will she become a baby? Yes, the 23rd Blood Mary answered. The 23rd Blood Mary replied, my divine power is fusing with my body and transforming my body into the prototype of a divine body, which is the young god that Ares mentioned. What about vitality? Zhang Tianyi asked. He was quite concerned about this. After all, he wasn't young anymore. Theoretically, it's endless, 23rd Blood Mary answered. Can gods really become immortal? Chun Zhao asked, surprised. No, 23rd Blood Mary answered. A god's lifespan is related to their godly authority and divine power. If they don't lose their godly authority and divine power, they can continue to exist. But if they lose their godly authority, they lose their divine power. Without divine power, their lifespan will come to an end too. They still have many advantages compared to mortals. Aside from power, lifespan is something that most people can't resist. Even Chun Zhao was tempted. Perhaps one day, when Chun Zhao was at the end of his rope like 23rd Blood Mary, he'd choose the same path as her. Of course, Chun Zhao didn't need to do that right now. Chun Zhao wanted to continue exploring according to his current path. He might still have a chance to walk his own path. Bifla and Zhang Tianyi had similar thoughts. The 3 of them had 3 completely different choices. But different paths led to the same destination. The paths they'd chosen were also very similar. Therefore, they could learn from each other and discuss. Finally, 23rd Blood Mary started her 10th transformation. 10 minutes later, she finished. A 2 to 3-year-old baby crawled out of the old skin. Everyone was speechless. 23rd Blood Mary raised her arms and looked at her limbs. It's better than expected. I didn't completely transform into a baby. Although her body had become a baby, 23rd Blood Mary's thoughts were still the same as before. This body is too weak, 23rd Blood Mary said helplessly. It has great power, but it can't be completely released. What's the difference between you now and the past? Power and characteristics. I can use divine power to imitate the moves and magic of the past, making them even more powerful. However, in a battle of the same level, I'm even weaker. I've lost my small world, and my divine kingdom hasn't been built yet. Moreover, my current body can't release too much divine power. If any of you want to fight me now, I can only raise my hands and surrender. Chapter 2889. Last night's storm had caused quite a bit of damage to the West Coast. There were also casualties, but not many. Chun Zhao could vaguely feel that the spiritual qi had become slightly thicker. It wasn't much, but it felt like it had increased in just one night. This was already having an effect. He couldn't feel the global effect yet. After all, even if the spiritual qi increased by 1% last night, there might not be 1% more spiritualists in the world. But if it increased by 10%, the number of spiritualists would increase exponentially. Chun Zhao didn't know how much the spiritual qi tide would increase by, or perhaps by a few 100%. Although there had been many spiritual qi tides in history, there were no clear records of their numbers. Moreover, there seemed to be differences in the strength of the spiritual qi tide at different times. Right now, Bifla was the only one who had the right to speak. This was because he'd experienced a spiritual qi tide before. He'd lived from the previous spiritual qi tide era until now. However, it was the beginning, so even Bifla couldn't tell if it was the same or not. Oro had just picked up the kids for school. Chun Zhao looked at the trash that had been washed up on the beach after the storm. Last night's storm had also affected Mingwe Villa. It didn't destroy the overall situation, but no one could stop the things that had washed up from the sea. Hey, Zephyra, when are you and Portia coming? Sorry, I'm waiting for Portia. She's sleeping in again. That D** Ned woman is putting on makeup now, Zephyra answered helplessly. Fine. Tell her that if I don't see her in an hour, she'll have to pay me again this month. Tell that asterisk shoal boss that if he dares to deduct my money again, I'll quit. Portia's furious roar came from the phone. Zephyra glanced at Portia. She really admired Portia. This woman owed the bank a lot of money, but she still had the courage to speak rudely to her boss, especially since she also owed her boss a lot of money. Zephyr suspected that this woman would be drowned in the sea by her boss one day. Portia had no choice but to give up now. She didn't have money to pay him back anyway. She didn't care what Chun Zhao did. Looking at Portia, who was dressing up in front of the dressing table, Revelous said, "You're so pretty that no other man will be able to see you except for your bastard boss." That's not necessarily true. Maybe I'll meet him on the way. Well, I wish you good luck, but you'd better hurry up. Otherwise, your money will definitely be deducted. Portia picked up the foundation in annoyance and suddenly smelled a pungent smell. She abruptly threw the foundation in her hands away. "What's this smell? It's so pungent." Refra picked up the foundation. "No, the smell is normal. This foundation costs more than $100, and it's broken." "No." Portia picked up the foundation again and couldn't help but frown. "Damn it, what happened just now? I clearly smelled it. That smell is simply nauseating. It's just your imagination. All right, I'll go to the bathroom." Portia got up and went to the bathroom. Although it seemed to be an illusion, the smell still remained in Portia's mind. Portia went into the bathroom and saw the lily in the vase in front of the mirror. She picked it up and took a deep breath. Suddenly, a strong fragrance rushed into her nose. Portia's entire body shook. In an instant, the mirror in front of Portia cracked. Portia was shocked. "What happened?" "Knock, knock." "Portia, what's wrong?" "I heard a sound inside." "Did you break something?" No, no, I accidentally broke the mirror," Portia said. "All right, come out if you're done. Don't let the glass scratch you," Refra said with concern. Portia's face was filled with shock and panic. What happened just now? She felt as if she had taken a breath of the flower. The fragrance seemed to have turned into a substance and flowed into her body. Immediately after, the stream of air rushed into her limbs and bones and was released by herself. Then, the mirror in front of her shattered. Portia wasn't sure if what happened just now was real. After all, it was too strange and unbelievable. Portia felt as if there was still that air in her body. Portia looked at the vase in front of her. After a slight hesitation, Portia picked up the vase. Portia searched for that feeling. Crack! In an instant, the vase in her hand broke. Portia was shocked again. It was real. It wasn't an illusion. The feeling was real. How could she have superpowers? Portia was shocked. She wanted to feel that air again, but she couldn't feel it. Fragrance? Was it fragrance? Portia quickly caught the point. Portia picked up the lily again and took a deep breath. But now, the lily seemed to have lost its fragrance. There was only a faint smell, not the feeling from before. Strange. Why is there no fragrance? Did I suck it dry? Portia opened the bathroom door. Refra stood outside the door and looked at the situation in the bathroom. Then, she looked at Portia. "I know you're in a bad mood, but some things can't be changed. No matter how unhappy you are with him, you have to pay it back first. Clean up the bathroom. I'm going to pack up and get ready to go." Portia walked to the dressing table and picked up the broken powder. She sniffed it. Like the lily, the smell was faint. She didn't feel anything. Portia picked up the perfume. This time it smelled like roses. Portia sprayed it. Instantly, the thick, almost pungent fragrance appeared again. At the same time, the unfamiliar air appeared again. Achoo! With a crash, the dressing table that Refra had just tidied up became a mess. Refra poked her head out of the bathroom. "Portia, that's enough. I'm cleaning up. I don't care what kind of temper you have, but you better control yourself." Sorry. I'll clean up now." Portia was both surprised and happy. She really had superpowers. She really did have superpowers. She wouldn't have to endure Chun Zhao's anger anymore. With superpowers, he could swagger around and make money. She could become a star. She wouldn't have to endure Chun Zhao's anger anymore. Right, she couldn't let that bastard off so easily. Portia decided to use her superpowers to fix that bastard, to let him know how powerful she was. Chapter 2890. Zephyr didn't understand why Portia became so excited after getting in the car. Her eyes were filled with anticipation, as if something good was waiting for her. "Portia, Can you stop wearing perfume? You've already sprayed it 3 times since you got in the car. How can you stand such a strong smell? Zephyra looked at Portia, who was in the passenger seat, unhappily. Portia enjoyed the fragrance in the air. She was also exploring her newfound ability. The air seemed to flow through her entire body, but she could control it and release it from her palms and fingers. Zephyra, does anyone in the assassin world have superpowers? Portia suddenly asked. Zephyra glanced at Portia. She didn't really like to talk about this. Portia had always misunderstood her and thought that she was an assassin in the past. Zephyra had never corrected or refuted this. So to Portia, Zephyra tacitly agreed. Of course, to some extent, Zephyra was indeed an assassin. However, the one she was after was a dragon. Zephyra, I'm serious. Does anyone in the assassin world have superpowers? Zephyra glanced at Portia and answered perfunctorily, yes. What are they like? Never seen one. You're an assassin, and you've never seen anyone with superpowers. Portia was quite disdainful. Zephyra roared in her heart. You face your boss every day. He's the biggest superpower in the world. The car stopped in the garage of the manor. Portia ran out. She ran straight to the garden. When she reached it, the fragrance seemed to turn into something solid. Portia opened her arms wide and inhaled the fragrance of the flowers in large mouthfuls. Her entire body was filled with the fragrance. It was a wonderful feeling. Portia, what are you doing there? Come here. Chen Zhao's roar came from the loudspeaker on a nearby pillar. Portia's expression was unhappy. Oof, you'll be in trouble soon. Portia went to the front yard and saw Chen Zhao in a pair of beach pants and sunglasses. He was lazily basking in the sun. Boss, Chen Zhao didn't even open his eyes. He said lazily, go and clean the beach. That's not my job, Portia replied. Before you reject my request, you'd better think about the $25 million you owe me. Right, according to the interest rate, it'll become $26 million tomorrow. If you make any more unreasonable demands, then I can only resign, and then I will apply to the union for arbitration. Chen Zhao pulled down his sunglasses and looked at Portia. Please. Portia gritted her teeth and clenched her fists. She was hesitating. Should she beat Chen Zhao up and leave? Chen Zhao stood up and walked to the sandbag hanging on the tree. He casually threw a punch, and the sandbag leaked. Zephyra, why is there a sandbag here? Chen Zhao asked, displeased. Zephyra, who was in the living room, poked her head out and said, Boss, this is for Kilo, not you. Also, if you want a sandbag, please prepare it yourself. Zephyra stared at him, speechlessly. She knew how terrifying Chen Zhao's fists were. A sandbag for Chen Zhao? How many do I have to prepare? 100 or 1,000? She didn't want to find trouble for herself. Portia's mind suddenly cleared up. Oh, her boss wasn't a normal person either. He'd killed someone with his fists right in front of her. Her superpower might not be his match. No, she couldn't rush it. She had to endure it. When she was strong enough, she would settle the score with him. Portia was suddenly convinced by herself. In the end, Portia was scared. Facing Chen Zhao, who had been bullying her for a long time, she still didn't have the courage to face him directly. Chen Zhao turned around and glanced at Portia. What are you waiting for? Why aren't you getting back to work? Are you really going to get unemployment benefits? The only thing that made Portia unyielding was her attitude. After a snort, she went to work silently. Just then, Navikalina arrived too. As Chen Zhao's legal consultant, she also had to take care of some chores in Chen Zhao's house. However, she didn't complain at all because her salary was higher than Portia's. Boss, I've basically negotiated with Mr. Bingley Lang from Northern Gravity. An S-10 will cost $755 million for the bare plane and $358 million for the renovation. The total will be $113 billion. We're waiting for your signature now. Huh? I remember they said that the S-10 model cost $810 million. Can you lower it by $55 million? Boss, you have a lot of choices, but they don't. They need to make up for their huge losses. Plus, they have 4 S-10s on the production line, but they don't have any buyers. We just want to buy a semi-finished one. It'll only take a month for it to be on the runway. Of course, The interior renovation will take at least 3 months. Plus the test and inspection, it'll take half a year. Yes, the time and price are both acceptable, but they have special requirements too. What requirements? The first advance must be $300 million. They also have to be paid within half a month after signing the contract. Sure. When do we sign the contract? Of course they want it as soon as possible, Navika said. It'd be best if it's today. A few days is fine. Chun Zhao waved his hand. Since he had the initiative, Chun Zhao wasn't in a hurry. He was in a hurry to get the private plane, but a few days was fine. They were in a hurry to sign the contract and get their advance payment. The bank was probably in a hurry. Boss, according to our agreement, I'll get 0.5% commission based on how much I can help you reduce. Is that still valid? Of course. You can withdraw at any time after signing the contract. Navika was overjoyed. She'd helped Chun Zhao save $55 million. Then her 0.5% commission would be $275,000. This was a huge sum of money for anyone, not to mention a new intern like her. Also, how's the small model I asked you to find? Boss, your requirement is to have it in stock and deliver it within a month. It's a luxurious small and medium-sized model with a price within $80 million. So far, I found Gulfstream's G650 and Bombardier's Global 6000. These two models are the most suitable. Among the small and medium-sized models, they have the highest support ratings and are the most comfortable. You can get them within a month after paying. Sure, contact their company and ask for one of these two models. Navika Lena was already used to her boss's extravagance. Do you need a loan? Rich people loved taking loans to buy these luxuries. It wasn't that they weren't rich enough, but they were used to turning cash into investments. Chun Zhao shook his head. He didn't like loans. He had enough cash in his bank account. Why would he need a loan? Mainly, he didn't like the feeling of owing money. Chapter 2891. Stop. I'll buy a bouquet of flowers, Portia said. Zevla was speechless, but she still stopped the car and asked Portia to buy the flowers. She felt that Portia was behaving strangely. In short, she was behaving strangely in every sense. If there was a cosmetic store on the side of the road, Portia would definitely pull the steering wheel and ask her stop. She felt that buying flowers was a waste of money, so she would never spend a single cent on flowers. But today, she actually took the initiative to suggest buying flowers. When Portia entered the flower shop, the owner was a beautiful woman. Miss, what flowers do you need? Portia took a deep breath of the fragrance in the air. What's the most fragrant flower? Portia asked. Lilacs, lilies, and gardenias are all very fragrant, the owner replied. Usually, people who bought flowers had a purpose. If they were placed at home to arrange flowers, most of them were for the sake of beauty. Very few customers would want to buy flowers for fragrance. Of course, the owner still truthfully told her 3 famous flowers for their fragrance. If you need flower arrangement services, we'll add $1, but the effect won't disappoint you. No need, just a bouquet of lilacs, lilies, and gardenias, Portia said. Soon, the owner helped Portia tie 3 different bouquets of flowers. Portia was about to pay when a black man rushed in. Robbery! Give me your money. Hurry up. The black man pointed a dagger at the 2 women. Portia didn't know where she got the courage from, but she let out a breath at the black man. Bang! The black man's mind went blank. Then he flew into the air. He smashed the glass door of the flower shop. Portia's mind went blank, and so did the owner. She didn't see what happened. When the black man rushed in, she was so scared that she hugged her head and squatted on the ground. When she raised her head again, she saw the ending. It seemed that the female customer pushed the black man. Then he flew out. As for the plot in between, she could only rely on her own imagination. Portia was slowly regaining her composure. Was she really that good? Just then, Zevla came to the flower shop. She stepped on the black man on the ground and asked, Portia, what happened? This guy was a robber, and I subdued him, Portia replied proudly. Zephyr was a little confused. Portia was going to subdue this burly black man? Are you having fun? With Portia's lousy fighting skills. Every time he went to the gym, He had to go to the boxing ring to spar with the trainer. 3 seconds later, he was lying on the ground. Trying to be a hero with this level of skill, he would be pressed to the ground and rubbed against at any moment. However, in this flower shop, there seemed to be only Portia and the florist, and both of them were women. Looking at the florist's appearance, she was just an ordinary woman. She didn't look like someone who could easily subdue the black robber. She dialed the police number. Soon, the police arrived. The police briefly questioned Portia and the florist. Refra had been listening to the florist. It seemed like it was really Portia who did it. On the way home, Zephyr was puzzled. Did Portia really subdue that black gangster? Portia, how did you subdue that gangster? Of course, it's my combat. How is it? Are you surprised? Zephyr smiled. Combat? There were a few times when Portia had overestimated herself and challenged her to a duel. Thus, she knew Portia's level very well. Holding the 3 bouquets of flowers from the florist, Portia sniffed them deeply. She was already addicted to this feeling. Let's practice when we get home. How about that? Sure. Portia also wanted to test her skill level. If she could defeat Zephyr, she might be able to defeat Chun Zhao. Portia also knew that Zephyr was very powerful. When they got home, Portia couldn't wait to drag Zephyr to the yard. Come. Zephyr didn't prepare anything. Portia took a few steps forward. With a yell, she swung her fist at Zephyr. Zephyr grabbed Portia's wrist with one hand and pushed her away. Portia, if you're only at this level, you won't be able to subdue that tall guy. It's not over yet. Watch. Portia suddenly swatted at Hot Vala, who was more than a meter away from her. Suddenly, Zephyr's eyes flashed and she dodged to the side. Crack! The glass window behind her shattered. How'd you dodge? You can see? She didn't expect Zephyr to be able to dodge her attack. Zephyr looked Portia up and down. She thought of a word, awakening. Hey! Portia ambushed Zephyr again. But with her skill level, she couldn't hit Zephyr. With another effortless sidestep, Zephyr dodged Portia's attack. Zephyr's attention wasn't even on Portia. She was deep in thought. She wasn't a spiritualist. She was a dragon slayer. She also knew that spiritualists would encounter a life-or-death situation when they awakened. But she didn't know what the situation was. Then, she thought about what Portia had said this morning. Zephyr couldn't help but look at Portia seriously. Are you going to use this ability to attack our boss today? Humph. I'm being magnanimous and don't want to argue with him. Portia's face was full of pride. She completely forgot that she was like a coward when facing Chun Zhao. Don't do something so dangerous in front of the boss. I know. I'm serious. I really know. If I accidentally hurt him, I can't afford it. Zephyr was so angry that she almost laughed. Hurt Chun Zhao. You can compete with the dragon to see whose arm is thicker first. Then we can discuss this. Zephyr was worried that if Chun Zhao's instinctive reaction was too big, he might really pace Portia to the wall. You can't even beat me. How can you beat our boss? You're an assassin. You can't beat him? You can treat him as a monster. Don't treat him like a normal person. I have superpowers. That's not superpowers. Zephyr shook her head. I've seen and dealt with people like you. Okay, just do what you did in the past and in the future. Don't provoke our boss. That's all. The moment Zephyr turned around, Portia ambushed her again. Hey! Portia's vision blurred and her neck felt cold. She did not know when Zephyr had appeared behind her with a dagger pressed against her neck. You don't want our boss to spend money to kill you, right? You know he's always generous. How much do you think you're worth? 50,000? Maybe even less. Chapter 2892. Portia was scared out of her wits. This was the first time someone had placed a dagger on her neck. She felt like she was going to die the next moment. In fact, this was how normal people would react. At the dinner table, Portia kept staring at Riva. What? Do you want to try to sneak attack me? Riva asked. Riva, you've killed people with that move before, right? Riva thought for a moment and then shook her head. No, it's actually not that useful. Riva had killed people before, but not many. A few years ago, she charged into the nest of a group of people who worshiped dragons as their god. She'd killed 3 people then. That was also her only time. After all, Riva was a dragon slayer, not a real killer. How did you see the thing I released? That chi. Riva shook her head. I didn't see it. I sensed it. Sensed? Which sensory organ? Riva realized that discussing this with Portia was like playing the piano to a cow. Portia, when did you get this ability? This morning. Okay, got it. Rest early tonight. Riva stood up. We're not done with dinner yet. You want me to rest early? Just then, Riva pulled out a suitcase from the cabinet beside her. Portia had seen this suitcase a few times, but she didn't think much of it. After all, Riva didn't hide it, so Portia didn't think much of it. However, when Riva opened the suitcase, Portia was shocked. Portia was shocked. There were all kinds of guns, knives, grenades, and some strange instruments that she couldn't understand. What? What's this? It might be troublesome tonight. Riva wasn't sure either. She didn't know how to tell if Portia was on the first, second, or third night. Chun Zhao was more professional in this. However, Riva didn't want to find Chun Zhao. Plus, this was Portia's business. If Chun Zhao found out that Portia had tried to sneak attack him, who knew if Chun Zhao would throw Portia into the Amazon rainforest? Riva didn't doubt for a second that Chun Zhao would do that. Are you sure you're not planning to rob a bank? Portia looked at the things Riva took out. Moreover, Zephyra had also begun to reload the gun barrels. This series of actions made Portia's scalp go numb. Even the banks aren't as rich as our boss. Fine, robbing a bank is more practical. Occasionally Zevra would play such little jokes. Anyway, go to bed early tonight. Everything will be fine once you wake up. Are you serious? I'll be in trouble? It's just a small problem. I will solve it. What happened to me? I don't have any enemies, right? Our biggest enemy is our boss. You're mistaken. That's not an enemy, it's a creditor. Refrick sat down on the ground, as if this position was more comfortable. Help me take out the box under the kitchen cabinet. Oh, please be gentle. What's inside? You don't want to know, Jevers said. Then if I accidentally hit it too hard, will it explode? No, but something bad will definitely happen. When Zevra opened the box, Portia discovered that it was filled with bottles and cans. There were all sorts of liquids inside. Portia thought that they were chemical liquids. However, Zevra opened one of the bottles directly. She even wiped the mouth of the bottle with her finger and licked it. Yes, it's not bad. What kind of water is this? Can I drink it? Holy water. Portia sniffed it, clearly not believing Zevra. What's this bottle? Coke. Seeing this, Zevra quickly snatched the bottle from Portia's hand. This one was filled with Coke. However, the black liquid inside was not Coke. You can't put this in your mouth. Also, don't get in the way. I have a lot of dangerous things here. You put this in your mouth? You're telling me it's dangerous? How is it dangerous? This is necromancy liquid. If you don't want to go crazy, you better stay away from it. Portia, on the other hand, was very interested. Then what's the theory behind soaking bullets in Coke? Can make the bullets more powerful? I told you this isn't Coke. It's necromancy liquid. Necromancy liquid is a deadly poison to all living creatures, even spirits. Ordinary bullets, soaked in necromancy liquid, can cause great damage to spirits. All right, necromancy liquid. How does it taste? Zevra rolled her eyes and said, Put your index finger between your eyebrows and look inside the bottle carefully. What's the point of doing that? Portia didn't understand, but she still did as she was told. However, the next moment, she saw what seemed to be thousands of hollow faces wailing and struggling inside the bottle. Ah, what is this? Looks like you already understand. Zevra put the bottle back. What exactly is this? Portia asked with a pale face and lingering fear. You don't want to know the refining process, Zevra said indifferently. All right, looks like I need to sleep. My head hurts a little. Portia rubbed her eyebrows and went back to her room. Portia lay in bed early. Her vision was filled with clouds and mist. Portia suddenly sat up on the bed. She realized that the floor beside her bed was covered in flowers. The entire room was filled with a strong floral fragrance. Dreaming? Portia was confused. No, if it was a dream, it would be impossible for her to realize that she was dreaming. Portia shook her head and tried to wake herself up. However, the surrounding walls and floor were still colorful. Portia pinched the back of her hand. No pain. She was really dreaming. Bang! Suddenly, a gunshot exploded beside her ear. Portia jumped in fright and opened her eyes. Then, she realized that she was still lying on the bed. A child was sitting on top of her. The child only had half a head, and black liquid was flowing out of the hole in the head. Ah! Portia screamed. The next moment, a foot kicked the child on top of Portia. Portia, you better calm down. Zevra's voice sounded. Portia looked at Zevra. Zevra, what's going on? What's going on? Zevra was fully armed at the moment, and the gun in her hand was still smoking. Half of the strange child's head seemed to have been blown off by her. We might be in trouble, Zevra said. Trouble? What kind of trouble? That child. That's the spirit of nightmares, a type of incubus. You see, it looks like a child, but it's just showing it to you. It will appear in everyone's dreams with the most harmless appearance, but you definitely won't want to see its true appearance. What trouble are you talking about? That nightmare spirit? Nine Heaven's Divine Emperor. Chapter 2893. That's just an appetizer. Zevra suddenly kicked Portia's bedroom door. The bedroom door, which was supposed to open inwards, was kicked open by Refra. Then, Zevra fired several shots at the door. A few holes were left on the door. Zevra, what's going on? Anyway, it's just trouble. What are those things? They want your things. Your abilities, your magic, or your body. You're talking about demons, right? In any case, it's always that kind of thing. Zevra grabbed Portia's hand and walked out. Just then, Portia saw a blurry figure flying toward them. Watch out! Ah! Portia screamed again. Bang, bang! You better shut up. Don't disturb me, Zevra said unhappily. Where's the car key? Where's the car key? Car key? Of course. Zevra suddenly took out a grenade and threw it in the living room. Cover your ears. Boom! The huge impact threw Portia off her feet. Portia was in a sorry state. She got up and looked at the living room. Do you know this isn't my house? Do you know how much I have to pay? It's fine. You already owe the boss enough money anyway. I just want to die right now. You can call your boss and borrow money from him, Zevra said. She had heard about the night of a spiritualist awakening, but it was said that the first night should be easy. But why did Portia's first night feel so difficult? I'm not calling him. That bastard will never call me unless he's in trouble, Portia said, throwing a tantrum. At this moment, a burning figure suddenly appeared in the broken living room. It was a burning skeleton almost 5 meters tall. It held a scythe in one hand and a chain in the other. Don't tell me that's Ghost Rider. Portia was dumbfounded. It looks more like the Grim Reaper. Hiss! The burning skeleton suddenly let out a roar. At the same time, a terrifying heat wave exploded from its body. Bang, bang, Zevra fired twice. However, it only managed to make the burning skeleton tilt its body slightly. The burning skeleton suddenly threw the chain at Zevra. She immediately pushed Portia away and grabbed the chain. The red-hot chain directly scorched the skin of Refra's palm. Although Zevra let out a painful cry, she did not let go. She raised the gun with her other hand and fired 2 more shots at the burning skeleton. The arm of the burning skeleton was broken by Zevra. Only then did Zevra drop the chain. Zevra quickly took out a bottle of holy water and poured it on her burned palm. However, a large amount of black smoke gushed out from the broken arm of the burning skeleton, and a new withered arm grew out from the black smoke. Let's go. Zevra threw the holy water at the burning skeleton. The burning skeleton swung its scythe and split the holy water in half. The burning skeleton did not touch the holy water. Where did this monster come from? It's so hard to deal with. Revela's face was serious. Portia was terrified by the scene before her eyes. Everything in front of her was completely beyond her knowledge and imagination. Zevra was originally full of confidence. After all, she had heard about the first night from a spiritualist she knew. It was said that the spiritualist she knew had easily helped someone solve the first night's awakening. And in terms of strength, she was much stronger than that spiritualist. So she thought that she could easily help Portia solve the first night's awakening. However, that was not the case. In short, Portia's first night's awakening was very strange. Logically speaking, she should have fainted for various reasons on the first night. However, she did not faint. From the looks of it, she was quite awake. But what was the use? It was better for her to stay unconscious. At least she would not be a hindrance. She could not help at all and always cause trouble for her. Also, wasn't the first night's awakening too difficult? No matter how one looked at it, this burning skeleton did not look like an ordinary evil spirit. It could use its own power to create a physical body. Basically, it could be concluded that it was already at the disaster level. No matter what it was, as long as it reached the disaster level, it would cause great damage and threat. And Zephyr was not an expert in dealing with spirits. Many of her equipment could be used to deal with dragons and evil spirits. However, this kind of equipment was destined to not be as effective as special equipment. After all of Zephyr's equipment was originally designed to deal with dragons. If it could harm dragons, it would definitely have a certain effect on other creatures or spirits. This was a weapon that could crush ordinary evil spirits. If it was an ordinary evil spirit, it would basically be destroyed by a touch. However, this did not include the disaster-level evil spirit in front of her. Without a special weapon, it would be difficult to cause any damage to it. At this time, the burning skeleton's feet shook and its body flickered as if it had teleported. In the next instant, it had already appeared in front of Zephyr and Portia. Zephyr subconsciously grabbed the chair next to her to block the burning skeleton's scythe. Pa! The chair was instantly cut into pieces. Zephyr kicked the burning skeleton and used the momentum to jump higher, firing several shots at the burning skeleton's head. However, the burning skeleton's head was unharmed as if it was made of iron. Damn, why is its head so hard? Ha ha! The burning skeleton let out a series of strange laughter. Delicious flesh and magic power, mine, all mine. Zephyr had already confirmed that the skeleton's head should be its weak point. However, the hardness of this head was simply outrageous. Duong, suddenly, Portia, who did not know where the courage came from, found a baseball bat on the ground and directly hit the burning skeleton's head. However, the baseball bat shattered, but the burning skeleton's head was still intact. Instead, Portia's arms went numb. The burning skeleton reached out its claws towards Portia. Flesh. Magic. It belongs to me. Zephyr reacted quickly and suddenly stuffed a grenade into the burning skeleton's mouth. At the same time, she hugged Zephyr and threw herself onto the ground. Boom! When the smoke dissipated, the burning skeleton was still intact. Both Zephyr and Portia's expressions became extremely ugly. Stuffing a grenade into the skeleton's mouth, yet it was still intact. How could they defeat this monster? It was impossible to win. This kind of monster could not win at all. Zephyr, what do we do? Zephyr did not answer Portia's question. Instead, she used her actions to tell Portia. Zephyr suddenly took out 2 jars and threw them at the burning skeleton. With a twist of the scythe in the burning skeleton's hand, the 2 jars were cut open at the same time. However, in the next instant, extreme cold air was released from the jars. Zephyr pulled Portia and ran. What is that? Liquid nitrogen. Chapter 2894. Liquid nitrogen was one of the few chemicals that could directly harm spirit bodies. If a person's skin was in contact with liquid nitrogen for more than 2 seconds, it would cause irreversible damage. Even a giant dragon would have to avoid liquid nitrogen. This thing was basically at the level of killing humans and Buddhas who stood in its way. Even ice-type spirits or demons would have to retreat in the face of liquid nitrogen. The moment the burning skeleton broke the 2 tanks filled with liquid nitrogen, the liquid nitrogen covered the skeleton's skeletal body. The flames on its body were instantly extinguished, and its body was also covered by a layer of white gas. Did you defeat it? Portia asked in surprise. But Zephyr shook her head with a serious expression. Let's go. It's not dead. Then let's finish it off now. It should be very weak in this state, right? Zephyr hesitated for a moment and then shook her head. Leave now. The 3 great illusions of life weren't only used in games. It was also very common in their industry. I can fight back. I can still save it. I still have a chance. The liquid nitrogen temporarily froze the burning skeleton, but it didn't cause any fatal damage. If they went up now, it was very likely that they would help the burning skeleton escape, not finish it off. Zephyr still turned around and left resolutely. Portia hurried to catch up. Just then, the frozen burning skeleton behind them suddenly emitted another ball of fire. First, it was its head. 2 balls of flames appeared in its pitch-black eye sockets. Then it was its lower jaw. You can't escape. It still couldn't move, but the bone-deep declaration made both of them uncomfortable. Is there no way to defeat it? Portia asked. Zephyr didn't answer Portia's question. She suddenly took out her gun and fired several shots at the roof of the car. Bang, bang, bang. Portia covered her face. I feel like I'm really going to go bankrupt. At least you're alive now. You still have a chance to repay your debt. In the rearview mirror, the burning skeleton appeared again, along with its claws. Zephyr threw the gun to Portia. You know how to shoot, right? Portia took a deep breath. She had shot at targets before, but she really hadn't shot at these unnatural creatures. Zephyr floored the gas pedal and picked up the phone. Boss, Portia and I are in trouble. Oh, how are you now? It's not bad for now, but we might bring you some trouble. All right, Phalai and I are having supper. If you come over, I can prepare some for you. We'll be there soon. Are you sure we won't bring trouble to the boss? Portia asked worriedly. Although she saw Chan Zhao as her enemy, it didn't mean that she wanted to kill his entire family. What happened? Lying on the bench, Phalai watched the children run on the beach and the bright moon rise above the sea. Nothing. Zephyr and Portia seem to be in some trouble. They're coming our way. Chen Zhao passed a skewer to Phalai. When will they arrive? We need to prepare more barbecue. There's still time. Or maybe we should wait for them to come and let them do it themselves. At that moment, headlights appeared on the road above the beach. Not long after, the roar of the engine became louder and louder. Boom! Suddenly, the steering wheel turned violently. The car flew off the road, and the front of the car smashed into the sand a few meters away. Portia dragged Zephyr, whose head was covered in blood, out of the car. One of Zephyr's arms drooped, as if she couldn't move. Chen Zhao walked toward the two. Boss! Boss behind! Portia shouted in excitement. As if he didn't hear Portia, Chen Zhao walked past her and toward the back. By then, the burning skeleton had already landed on top of their wrecked car. Then, the car exploded violently. The burning skeleton wobbled its way out of the blazing flames. Ha! Who? Don't even think about escaping. Suddenly, a hand grabbed the skeleton's neck bone. Crack! Its flaming head was plucked off. Portia was stunned. She looked at the basketball-sized burning skull in Chen Zhao's hand. The burning skeleton didn't lose control of its remaining body immediately. The scythe in its hand suddenly slashed toward Chen Zhao. Be careful! Portia exclaimed. Chen Zhao reached out and grabbed the handle of the scythe. Then he raised a foot and kicked the burning skeleton away. Portia rubbed her eyes, indicating that she must have seen wrong. What the fuck is going on? Chen Zhao tossed the burning skull in his hand. You were tormented by this thing for the whole night. Zephyr looked at Chen Zhao weakly and then nodded silently. Crack! Chen Zhao crushed the burning skull with one hand. Portia's eyeballs almost popped out. She and Zephyr knew very well how hard this thing was. Even a grenade wouldn't leave a mark on its mouth. And then, Chen Zhao crushed it with one hand? Is this a joke? Portia never knew that her boss was this terrifying. Not only did he kill people with one punch, but he also killed them with one punch. How could such an obviously inhuman existence exist? Did he also kill them with one hand? Portia suddenly remembered that she'd planned to teach Chen Zhao a lesson when she went to work in the morning. She suddenly felt extremely glad that she'd been smart. She was so happy that she didn't fight. Where did you provoke this thing? Chen Zhao asked, confused. This is her night of awakening, Zephyr said, pointing at Portia. Night of awakening? How many nights? Chen Zhao looked at Portia in surprise. At this level, it's at least the second night. People might even believe it's the third night. Would you believe it if it's the first night? No. I've seen the Night of Awakening before. I know the rough difficulty levels. The first night can't be like this. Wait. Chun Zhao suddenly turned his head to look at Portia. It's not strange that you've awakened. What's strange is why you're able to stay awake during the Night of Awakening. Then what should I do? Lie down and sleep? Fine, these are all unimportant things. Chun Zhao shrugged. Chun Zhao had a vague suspicion that Portia's awakening and the first night might be due to the spiritual tide. The influence was gradually happening. It was an irreversible process. Portia, I think you're going to increase your debt again. I'm not borrowing money from you. Boss, look, your car is stuck on my beach right now. The towing company will charge you at least $1,000. Also, I'm charging for saving you. Am I right? Chapter 2895. Also, I highly suspect that you actually plan to attack me today. No. How could that be? There's no such thing. You're mistaken. I'm such a coward. How could I do anything to my boss? You're my creditor, my bread and butter. That's impossible, Portia frantically explained. What a joke. She definitely couldn't admit this. She wouldn't admit it even if she died. If Chun Zhao really found out, her guess would be correct. She would probably be fed to the sharks. Boss, you'd better treat me first. Otherwise, you might lose a diligent assistant. Right now, Portia really wanted to kiss Refra. Her voice was just too timely. If not, she would have changed the topic. Portia felt like she was going to admit it out of fear. Facing Chun Zhao's question was too terrifying. It was the scariest nightmare. Compared to Chun Zhao, the burning skeleton from before was so cute. Didi went up to help Refra. Chun Zhao checked Refra and applied some medicine. Refra's injuries weren't serious. Even without Chun Zhao's treatment, Refra could recover in 3 days with her superhuman constitution. After all, Refra had dragon blood. Therefore, some of the injuries on her body would be fatal to an ordinary person. But for her, it was more like a bad cold. Chun Zhao only wanted Refra to recover faster. At the very least, she could go eat barbecue after receiving some simple treatment. Portia, who was still in shock, had no appetite at all. But no one comforted her. Everyone cared about their own things, especially those heartless kids. In their eyes, how could this be called a matter? Even Refra cared more about filling her stomach. Everyone continued to eat, drink, and play. In the end, Portia still joined them. Portia had originally thought that her superpower was one of a kind. Now, she realized that she had awakened her magic. It was the most worthless thing to Chun Zhao. After Portia became a spiritualist, Chun Zhao didn't need to hide many things from her anymore. A dozen underlings ran over with pots and pans. Portia was so scared that she fell to the sand. But apart from her, everyone else didn't move. Only then did she realize that these short gnomes were not here to attack them. These little things served them. They were pouring wine, barbecuing, or cleaning up the trash left behind by the crowd. They were very hard-working and capable, at least much more so than Portia. Portia vaguely remembered. Many times when she was here, Chun Zhao didn't go to the kitchen. In the blink of an eye, he would bring out plates of dishes. Only now did he understand that it was because of these little things. Chun Zhao was about to finish his beer when he suddenly stopped and looked at the road beside him. What's wrong? Boss. Hot Front noticed his movements. Her troubles aren't over, Chun Zhao said. There's still many spirits gathered around. Some of them are stronger. I thought that burning skeleton was already the strongest. That's just one of them. It seems like her situation is a little complicated. They won't come, right? Portia looked at Chun Zhao worriedly. She didn't have a clear idea of Chun Zhao's strength. She didn't know if Chun Zhao could block those messy things. Sha. Just then, a sound came from the dense grass outside. Raymond had already gone to deal with it. If an attack of this level could get in, all of Chun Zhao's preparations would be meaningless. Portia also saw the huge snake figure. Of course, she knew about Chun Zhao's snake, Raymond. In fact, she'd interacted with Raymond many times. She'd also killed all the beasts in Chun Zhao's house. However, she didn't expect Chun Zhao's things to be good at exorcism too. Not only did he have a set of skills, Portia saw that his huge body was like a rampaging monster. Of course, she wasn't afraid at all. Instead, she felt safer than ever. Master, it seems like it's not just here. I feel that there are many incidents in this area. At least 2 of them are disaster level. Raymond's senses were even better than Chun Zhao's in some aspects. Raymond was a snake of desire, but he fed on spirits. That was why he had an abnormal sense of spirits. It was like a hawk that could see a rabbit from several kilometers away. He also had an unconventional sense of spirits. Chun Zhao fell into deep thought. It seemed that the world had changed. Even a number of people awakening had increased. Multiple awakenings in one city at the same time. This wasn't normal, especially since this was Los Angeles, a large region in North America. The ratio of spiritualists here was already low. Now, there were actually multiple awakenings at the same time. This was just the beginning. It had only been 24 hours since the spiritual chi tide had appeared. In the future, as the spiritual chi in the world increased, these incidents would become more frequent. Just then, Wes called. President, there seems to be a problem today. I've received requests for help from 4 awakenings. One of them is also an awakener, but not tonight. He seems to be on his 2nd night. Do you have enough people? No problem for now. What a joke. The lowest standard of the supernatural organization was to face the first night alone. If they couldn't solve it, they might as well hang themselves together. Don't underestimate these first night awakeners. I've also had a first night awakening, but it's almost as difficult as the 2nd night. Everyone in charge of the night of awakening must be on high alert. I'm not sure how strong the night is, but you can't treat it like a normal first night. Okay, I understand. President, do you know what's going on? I'll tell you the details tomorrow. As soon as he hung up, the children who were playing suddenly screamed. Chun Zhao also saw what had happened. A few blue flames appeared on the sea, as well as the silhouettes of 3 ships. Ghost ship! Ghost ship! Look, that's a ghost ship, right? Portia was excited again. Chun Zhao frowned. Was this a coincidence? Or were they here for Portia? It couldn't be, right? It was too much to summon a few specter ships on the first night. If everyone's first night was this strong, then the Awakeners could basically commit suicide. They couldn't even be saved. Unless they had the protection of half of the supernatural organization, it would be very difficult to withstand this level of strength. Chun Zhao couldn't help but worry. Would there be a problem with the first nights the supernatural organization was in charge of? There was also a 2nd night tomorrow. The difficulty would probably increase too. Chapter 2896. Under the night sky, the 3 ghost ships were like guests from hell. The wisps were guiding them. The waves were driven by them. They came with death. Portia felt a chill run down her spine. She didn't know if the 3 ghost ships were coming for her. Anyway, she felt terrible now. Very, very terrible. Just then, huge tentacles appeared behind the 3 specter ships. Portia's feeling of unease deepened. The 3 specter ships seemed to be carrying terrifying monsters with them. No, they weren't tentacles. They were snakeheads, the legendary Hydra. Portia didn't think that she would see a real Hydra one day. In any movie, the Hydra was an evil existence. It didn't matter whether it was itself or the organization that was named after it. Basically, if it didn't do some evil things, it would be too embarrassing to wear its name. Of course, seeing such a monster in real life was much more shocking than seeing it in movies. Each snakehead was hundreds of meters long. Compared to it, the 3 ghost ships were nothing. The 3 ghost ships were only half the size of one of the snakeheads. Plus, the hundreds of meters long snake neck was exposed. The 3 specter ships looked like toy ships. Any one of these 9 snakeheads could swallow all 3 specter ships in a single bite. Yes, they could really do it. In fact, they really did it. The snakehead in the middle bit down on the 3 specter ships. Then, with a crack, they all shattered. Portia was dumbfounded by what she saw. Aren't you guys on the same team? Don't you know that you're going to let yourself down? Riva looked at Chun Zhao. Boss, where did you get that? You know, I like to adopt some pets, but they're too big, so I'll let them go and feed them regularly. Chun Zhao shrugged. I heard that they can be bigger. Portia pointed at the 9 snake heads that were slowly sinking into the sea. Boss, don't tell me you're talking about them. Yeah, they have 9 heads, but they only have 1 consciousness. You call that a pet? Most of the time, it's obedient. What about the small part? Except for 1 or 2 shipwrecks. Portia didn't just passively open the door to a new world today. At the same time, he also got to know his boss again for the first time. She felt that her boss was definitely a demon. It used to be an adjective, now it is a noun. He was simply a walking demon in the human realm. After all, raising a legendary magical beast was definitely not something an ordinary person could do. Not all of the spirits on the Spectre ship were dead. They fled in all directions. From afar, they looked like fireflies dancing on the sea. Chun Zhao pulled an evil spirit over through the air. The shape of the evil spirit was definitely befitting of its identity. His body was wet, and his entire body was emitting a faint blue light. His skin was swollen, as if he had been soaked in seawater for a long time. There was only 1 eye. The other eye socket was empty, and there was an eel squirming in and out of it. Portia immediately retreated when she saw his inhuman and ghostly appearance. It was said that one's appearance was determined by one's heart. In any case, this guy in front of him was definitely not a good person. Can you speak? Chun Zhao asked. The evil spirit was afraid of Chun Zhao. Portia felt that it was a bad person because of his appearance. But the evil spirit also felt that Chun Zhao wasn't a good person. In fact, it was very, very bad. I'm asking you, can you speak? If not, I'll change to another one. The evil spirit nodded repeatedly. Yes, yes, I can speak the language. Portia was speechless. Indeed, evil people needed to be dealt with by evil people. Her boss was indeed the worst bad person. Where are you from? How long have you been on the sea? When did you die? The evil spirit was silent for a while, probably thinking. After 10 seconds, it said, I already forgot how long I've been dead. I only remember that not long ago, I saw a sky full of blood rain and a huge pillar of light. Then my friends and I woke up. Our ship also woke up with us. We floated up to the sea. As it spoke, the evil spirit suddenly spat out a lively fish. Chun Zhao was speechless. Just say it. Why did you have to be so funny? Forget it. Piss off. He wouldn't get anything out of it, even if he kept asking. The evil spirit had only woken up in 1 or 2 days. It looked like it was in a daze, and its mind wasn't even clear. Chun Zhao casually tossed the evil spirit into the sea. You letting it go just like that? Portia asked in surprise. What else? Keep it for the night? Shouldn't it be destroyed? It's not a threat to me, but it can hurt others. There's a law in America called prophecy crimes. Probability can't be used as a motive or reason for a crime. But with that thing, how do you think it can harm others? Is it afraid of pranks on the ship? How feasible do you think it is? It doesn't even dare to show itself in the day. Fine, whatever you say. The evil spirits weren't that harmful. If the ghost ship was still here, they could still use it to do evil. But now that the ghost ship was gone, they were just a bunch of scattered soldiers. They weren't even as dangerous as a robber. Moreover, there were a few people in Chun Zhao's house who liked to eat spirits raw. They were secretly catching wandering evil spirits behind Chun Zhao's back, planning to catch them for supper. Chun Zhao just ignored it, just like how he didn't care about the evil spirits. He didn't care about what his pets ate either. It was late at night. Chun Zhao's family started packing up, preparing to go to bed. Out of all the people, only Portia was wide awake. After all, she'd already slept for a while and been scared for half the night. Now was the time to be refreshed. But no one was with her. She could only return to the room Chun Zhao had arranged for her. She didn't think much of it before, but now she knew. Terrifying monsters could be lurking in every corner of the manor. As a result, she didn't sleep for the entire night, afraid that some monster would crawl out from under the bed. She only started closing her eyes in the morning. But before she could fall asleep, Chun Zhao woke her up. Get up. It's time for work. Portia looked at the time. Boss, it's only 8. You're living in my house, so of course you have to pay rent. It's not hard for you to wake up early to work. I only slept for less than 2 hours. That's not my problem. Fine. What do you need me to do? My friend is getting married this weekend. Go to the mall and help me pick a gift. Boss, you should buy the gift yourself to show your sincerity. Cut the crap. Do you want to borrow money or not? Or should I kick you out today? Fine, pretend I didn't say anything. What's the budget? Within $2,000. That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.